Okay, we are live. Give me just a second to bring the webcam up. I don't know why it does this every time. Okay, we should be good now. Welcome everyone to Press X Podcast. Thank you as always for waiting patiently as the member credits roll, the intro credits roll that is, goes on. So yeah, big shout out to my members. Thank you guys so much for your continued monthly support. We are on episode 101 of Press X Podcast, which is unfortunately not the best episode. I don't mean to be a downer right up front, but the reality is that this week had some ups, but it also had some downs as well, not just for Sony. Yeah, I think something that I will mention here that I do think is worth mentioning is that, I have this podcast framed as a PlayStation podcast. That is extremely obvious. And I realize that we do talk, obviously, more than just PlayStation on this podcast. I think pretty much everybody who is a regular viewer and a regular follower knows this. But each week I do see some people that I don't know if they're actually surprised or not that we do talk about, other things within the gaming industry outside of PlayStation. And so, I'm not going to say that this isn't a PlayStation podcast because it is. But the way I want to frame it, and I just think that maybe this is something that's worth reiterating maybe a few weeks over, just so that way people can understand that, look, if you are looking for a podcast that literally only covers PlayStation and doesn't touch anything else outside of it, you're probably not going to get that here. You're going to get pretty much everything that's going on with PlayStation, but we're also going to talk about some of the other bigger things that go on, And I think most of my audience already knows this, but I just want to make that clear. This is a PlayStation-focused podcast, but we also cover other aspects of the gaming industry. So yes, we will talk about Xbox. On very rare occasion, we may talk about Nintendo. But I just want that to be clear because, there are people who have been pointing out over this past week that, hey, you're talking about this. Like, for example, one of the topics we will discuss today is what's going on with Xbox's Initiative Studio. And I made a video on that. And that was like the first Xbox dedicated video I made in a long time. And people were getting upset, at least a certain group of people, that is, were getting upset because they're like, well, yeah, of course you're going to make a video on this because it's bad Xbox news. How come you never cover the good Xbox news? And I feel like that's a little bit unfair because it's like, well, if you think about it, I really haven't covered anything Xbox in a long time. And these people who say these things, it's very clear that they just do not watch the content here and they're not following the content. And if they were, they would know that I'm talking about this specific Xbox thing, that being the Initiative, because I'm actually interested in what they're doing. And there are people who comment and they're like, oh, no, you're not, MBG, you're not interested, you don't care, you're not going to play. It's like, I don't know if you know this or not, but that's exactly why I haven't really been covering many Xbox related things, because I'm not that interested in most of what Xbox is doing, but they are doing things that I am still, paying attention to. And so I just don't want people to act like it's a surprise that, oh, well, here we go. MBG's talking about the Initiative because it's bad news. Like, yeah, it's bad news, but it's because I care about what's going on with the studio, because I care ultimately about what they're going to produce, because I actually had hope in it. Keyword is had. But with these people who attack me every week, what they won't do is if I come out here just like I did this week and I make a video calling out Sony for what they're doing with Gran Turismo 7. Regardless, look, here's the thing. I know that there are going to be people just like there are with Xbox. Where it's like you're blowing things out of proportion, and people are becoming all hyperbolic over this. Regardless of how you feel, the point is, yes, I do cover some of the negative PlayStation stuff as well. And I just think that it's kind of ridiculous how it's almost like people are more focused on what you're not saying and what you're not doing more so than what you're actually saying and what you're actually doing. So, yeah, I just felt the need to say that because this past week, man, I mean, there's been a lot of weird stuff going on for both PlayStation and Xbox, frankly. And definitely some stuff we got to talk about. So, apologies for that little rant. I don't think that wasn't a rant, but that's just something I want to say. See, Mepsic, thank you, buddy. You're saying, hey, brother, hope all is well. Do you think you would cover any of Sony's movies, such as the new Uncharted movie? That shirt is fire. Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't know how much of the shirt you can see. It is a Metal Gear Solid shirt. I'm glad you noticed that. Yeah, absolutely. I did talk a little bit about the Uncharted movie, and I probably could have talked about it a little bit more, frankly. But because Sony has such an investment in doing more in the space, like we're getting a Ghost of Tsushima movie, we're going to apparently be getting, for better or for worse, a Twisted Metal TV show, alongside apparently an Amazon God of War series, which is to me very concerning because, and yeah, Sony is doing a lot in that space, and that's definitely something I want to cover on the channel. I mean, I am a PlayStation channel first and foremost, so I just think it makes sense that we will cover that more extensively. I probably could have said more and talked more about the Uncharted movie, but I think it's just kind of difficult for me to talk that much about the Uncharted movie because Uncharted, for as popular of a franchise as it is for PlayStation, it's not really the franchise I guess you could say I'm most familiar with. Not the franchise I'm like closest to, but like when we do get that Ghost of Tsushima movie, I played Ghost of Tsushima like twice now and did everything in the game you could possibly do. I'm definitely gonna have a lot more to say probably about that, and same with like God of War. Twisted Metal, I mean, I'll probably have a lot to say about that just because I don't know how they're going to do that successfully. But MBG, have you seen Digital Foundry's latest video about GTA 5 PS5 versus Series X? They are very late to this analysis, and the result is complete opposite of what others said. Digital Foundry says the Series X is greater than the PS5. That is, you know what? Honestly, I have not seen that yet. That is really bizarre to me if that's true, because I just covered this yesterday in my video where I think it's Elle and Elisa Day Bits. They tested the different versions, and apparently the PS5 version came out on top in pretty much every area. And the Series X was experiencing frame drops from down to like the 40s in some instances, to whereas the PS5 version at the same resolution was maybe dropping like a couple frames. But I will look into that. I will look into that because that is just one source where it's coming from. And Digital Foundry is very good at what they do. So I'm definitely going to have to watch it. You're saying Digital Foundry did not say that? Okay. Well, you know what? Here, I can actually just go check myself. I'm not going to watch the whole thing, but I can maybe just get an idea because it's difficult to just go based off of what people are saying. Okay, so this person left a comment, and this has a bunch of upvotes on the Digital Foundry video, where it says PS5 being slower to load kind of makes no sense. The Xbox Series X not being able to hold a steady 60 frames per second in performance mode also makes no sense. Rockstar needs to work on optimization more. See, that's extremely confusing to me. What do they mean the PS5 version is loading slower? I just read a report yesterday that said that the PS5 version loads significantly faster. I'm gonna have to look further into this because this seems pretty messy, frankly. Um, but my whole thing with this is how sad is this, guys? I mean, truthfully. Oh, by the way, Mepsic, I didn't see I just saw your other uh, chat where you said woot woot. Sorry about that. Um, yeah, I'm gonna have to look into this a little bit more because regardless of what the results are, I want to say this. All right, I want to say this about GTA 5. I think it's incredibly sad and frankly depressing, just straight up depressing that it is March 20th. It's March 2022 and we're still talking about GTA 5. We're getting comparisons on GTA 5 on these new consoles, and I don't know, man. People have all these high expectations for GTA 6, and I just don't. I will admit, I downloaded GTA Online on the PS5. You're saying that first report you read was a fake? Yeah, well, I mean, if that's true, man, that's going to be a huge hit to. Well, I don't know if it would be a hit to WCCF Tech because they're the ones who reported it, but it could be a hit to El Analista de Bits. I mean, I don't think they're nearly as well respected as Digital Foundry, but at the time it was the only report we had, so I'll definitely look into it. And if it turns out that that's not the scenario, then we'll definitely. Well, I don't say definitely. It depends on what happens this upcoming week, but we'll correct that. We'll talk about that. But I just want to say that like people have they had such high expectations for Rockstar and Grand Theft Auto 6, and I'm like, what has Rockstar done? I mean, I know there's Red Dead Redemption 2, but I'm talking specifically with Grand Theft Auto. What has Rockstar done outside of just making it crystal clear that the only thing they care about is GTA Online and the monetization of GTA Online? Like this is why I'm not saying that I won't be excited for GTA 6 when we first see it. Of course I will. It's going to be impossible not to be. But at the same time, I will be thinking in the back of my mind, it won't surprise me. It won't surprise me if GTA 6 ends up being extremely underwhelming for one reason and one reason only. Essentially, it's just a giant sandbox for and a next gen version of GTA Online. I remember I put a poll out. I ended up deleting this poll, but the poll that I put out was I asked my my audience. I said, what do you think the chances are that GTA 6 doesn't ship with a traditional, I have to highlight the word traditional, single player component? And it's basically just a glorified version of GTA Online where you're basically playing the single player component within GTA Online. And people thought I was crazy. They're like, what are you, insane? And I'm like, that sounds extremely plausible. Like, I don't know why people think that sounds so crazy. I can only assume that a lot of people don't fully grasp just how monumentally successful GTA Online has been for Rockstar and Take-Two Interactive. Space Gambler Jr. saying, no, it's going to be episodic. I could see that too. The Caped Crusader, member for 13 months with Greatness Awaits. Thank you so much, man. You're saying Sony has been on some bullshit lately with these sneaky microtransactions, $70 prices, movies, TV shows, etc. Jim Ryan is low-key Don Matrick. Well, Caped Crusader, I think I don't know. I don't view Jim Ryan nearly as problematic per se as Don Matrick. But I do see where you're drawing these comparisons. And we definitely are going to talk about some of the concerning things that Sony may be pursuing. And we're kind of beginning to see, I guess, what you would call the beginnings of maybe some concern. And, I think I understand that for a while now, like people view me, they're like, yo, you're MBG, he's just that that radical, nonsensical PlayStation fanboy, and he'll just support whatever PlayStation or Sony does. And I really don't know why people think that. That's not true. There are certainly things that Sony has done and that they will do and they are doing that I do not support whatsoever. But it's all, it's difficult to have well-rounded conversations like this, critical conversations like this, because what happens is people just want to, they just want to jump to the extreme every time, like, for example, what we heard about Xbox's Initiative Studio and what's going on with them. People jump to an extreme where they're like, wow, Xbox is dead. Xbox sucks. They're never going to release a good game. That's an extreme response based off of one isolated situation. But does that mean the isolated situation isn't bad? No, it is bad. But this is just where people need to find the middle ground, the rational middle ground, I guess, is where, I guess that's the best way to describe it. And the same can be said for Sony currently, because like I said, there are some good, but also some not so good things we will have to discuss regarding Sony today. PlayStation Pete, you're saying tomorrow is me and my wife's 7th wedding anniversary. If Sony decides to stop making consoles due to chip shortage, I will quit gaming. Well, they're not going to stop making consoles, PlayStation Pete, but I do think that it's becoming much more of an issue than we originally thought. I mean, we don't really know Sony's plans. The best thing we have to go off of right now when it comes to Sony and the problem that they're having producing anywhere near enough units, the best thing we have to go off of is the last time they spoke to their investors. They did warn them that, yeah, we're probably not going to be able to meet our expectations or your expectations. They're going to be lower, but they believe that it's going to see a massive uptick later on, possibly in like 2023 and 2024. And even though that's a long time from now, it sounds to me like Sony is prepared to weather the storm that we're currently in when it comes to the chip shortage, because, you do have to kind of think to yourself, if Sony was able to produce as many PlayStation 5 consoles as they wanted right now, and everybody who wanted one could get one, how well would the PS5 be doing right now? Frankly, I think it would still be breaking records. But the PS5 hit a brick wall, just like the Xbox did, just like the Nintendo Switch is. The Nintendo Switch, not as much because it's older hardware, but definitely the PS5 hit a brick wall to where it was on track to break all types of records. And then it happened to release at a time when something like this is happening. And so I think Sony still has a tremendous amount of confidence in the PS5 console to sell very, very, very well, and possibly in the long run still, get up there with the PS4. But there's no doubt that while this chip shortage lingers, Sony has to be very careful about how they navigate it, and when do you build the hype around the PS5? Sony needs to well, I don't know if they need to, but what I want to say is that Sony is in a position right now where they likely have quite a few games that we don't know about that are being developed for the PlayStation 5 exclusively. And by that I mean they're not cross-gen. They're not going to release on the PlayStation 4. And I have to imagine Sony is feeling nervous about revealing these games, or about when exactly they're going to reveal these games. Because when Sony announces 1, 2, 3, or 4 new games that are PS5 exclusive, yeah, that's going to be awesome. But if they're doing that at a time when people, they go to the store, they go online, and you just can't buy a PS5, at least not without really dedicating a good portion of your time to doing so. You see what I'm saying? It's really tough right now. And I think a lot of people have been kind of wondering, how come it seems like Sony has really kind of slowed down when it comes to their support? I don't know if support's the right word, but just their kind of hype building around the PS5. Are they losing faith in the console? It has nothing to do with that. It just has everything to do with the fact that they just cannot. They cannot produce enough units, and you're going, in my opinion, to start to see how, the PS5 is going to start to fall behind the PS4 sales-wise, and it's going to be a bad look, but we're going to know why. And that doesn't mean it's not going to recuperate, but yeah, that's just the unfortunate reality. The Cape Crusader, again, you're saying Rockstar Games has become so greedy and lazy that I won't be surprised if GTA 6 is mainly focused online and half-assed and has a half-assed single-player story. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be too negative or too much of a downer, but I truly have no expectations for GTA 6. But if I had to set an expectation, I would be leaning more towards, I don't really trust Rockstar Games at this point, mainly because I think it would be smart of Rockstar to have a very, very, very good single-player campaign. And if anything, maybe GTA 5's success is going to make it so that they will have a successful campaign or a good campaign. I say this because for as successful as GTA Online has been and still is, we can't forget how GTA Online started. GTA Online started as a side product that released, a side mode that released alongside the single player campaign of GTA 5. So what I mean to say is that I think maybe there is a decent chance that Rockstar Games and Take-Two Interactive do see the release of, I guess you could say, the next mainline GTA game. They do see it as something that absolutely needs to have a very strong single player, or maybe, or if it doesn't, then maybe it won't be as successful. I think that's a fair way to view it as well. But I feel like it's still kind of up in the air. I'm just going to give Rockstar a little bit of credit here and give them the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to say that GTA 6 will have a very good, very high quality, proper single player experience. But there's no doubt, there's a guarantee GTA Online will absolutely be the priority. So, that is a guarantee. But you know what, Cape Crusader, based off of your super chat, I do want to say something here real quick. I mentioned it briefly earlier. Because it was free, I did download GTA Online on my PS5. And when I booted it up, I was unbelievably underwhelmed. Like, I don't know what I was expecting, and maybe my expectations were too high, and I guess I just kind of forgot how old GTA 5 is, and I kind of forgot that GTA 5 is a game that from the ground up was developed around the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 hardware. And when I was looking at this game, I'm like, holy crap, this does not look good. Like, it doesn't look terrible, but it's just, it wasn't impressive at all to me. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, the resolution's higher. Yeah, there's a little bit of ray tracing, but it feels clunky. It feels old. It feels dated. It looks dated. And I'm just like, I don't know. I've seen people not many people, but I have seen some people talking about how good GTA 5 on the PS5 looks. And I'm just like, I'm not seeing it. Like, I'm not seeing it at all. That's just me. But then again, I only played it for like 10 minutes. I'm going to be honest. Like, I literally immediately uninstalled it because I just can't get into it. To me, GTA is not an online experience. And I think that that's really just why I was like, you know what? I'm just going to uninstall this. It definitely looked better than the PS4 version. Obviously, it looked way better than the PS3 version. But all in all, from what I was getting, it looks, waved max. You're saying it feels old and dated. You're saying Final Fantasy 14 is dated. It started from PS3, but still even today it looks somewhat good. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't hold up at all. I think I just have like this disdain for the online component of GTA to where, like, if I was into it, like if I was playing the single player, I'd probably be like, oh yeah, this looks really good. But I was just like starting to play GTA Online a little bit, and I was just like, nah, I'm not, I'm good. Like, I'm good. And I just uninstalled it, and I'm like, I'll be ready for whenever Rockstar wants to show off GTA 6, but GTA is not an online experience to me. GTA games, when I think about my memory with them, it's with the single player component, not online. And that's just how I saw it. But I was not very impressed. That's all. Let me see here. Inspector Guru, you're saying who's greedier with MTX, Rockstar or EA? I think EA is definitely greedier, mainly because I just think that EA has proven that they're willing to do just some absolutely dumb stuff that any normal, rational thinking person would realize that's not a good idea. And they're just like, we should do it anyway. I feel like for as bad as Rockstar and Take-Two Interactive are with like GTA Online, I still do feel like, they haven't reached that level quite yet. Young G, you're saying, I feel how you feel. I don't hate Xbox. It's just everything is painfully average on Xbox. Yeah, I mean, I feel like putting Forza aside and maybe Gears to an extent. I can't really speak to Halo, but that's kind of, my issue as well. Like, I now feel that the Initiative's Perfect Dark, Crystal Dynamics is helming it. And I'm just like, I kind of feel that way too now. Is it just going to be painfully average now? This was supposed to be the studio that's supposed to be competing with Rockstar Games and Sony Santa Monica. We'll talk more about that though. So guys, do me a favor. I do want to dive into the first main topic of the show. And before I do that, I want to first off ask you guys if you could please hit the like button for me. If you're here live right now, it helps a lot. If you're somebody who's watching later on, definitely still hit the like button. Every like helps and counts. And if you want to help support this channel and my podcast, and you really like the content here and you like everything I do, I don't do a lot of sponsored content. I pretty much do virtually no sponsored content. I don't have like a Patreon or anything like that. So, I do rely on the viewership as well as, you guys donating super chats and becoming channel members. So again, if you're somebody who just really likes the content and you have the means to be able to support it directly, feel free to do so. It goes a long way for me here and allows me to continue to do what I do. But with that being said, we are going to dive into the first topic. And the first topic I want to talk about is one of the positive topics that I think is worth talking about briefly here. Sony had a big state of play this past week. And, it's one of these things where I feel like it could have went either way, but it was definitely leaning more towards, hey, Sony is doing a big state of play dedicated to Hogwarts Legacy, a multi-platform game. And there was some speculation that, well, maybe it'll be an exclusive. Maybe they'll have exclusive content. It seems that none of that is going on with Hogwarts Legacy. Hogwarts Legacy is still a full multi-platform game. I think it might even be going to Nintendo Switch, but Sony has the marketing rights for it, and Sony really wanted to take advantage of this. And I guess Sony must believe that, yeah, this game's going to sell millions and millions and millions of units, and we want to make sure that the bulk of those units sell on PlayStation. Sony makes pretty much, I don't know if it's the majority of their money. It probably is, but they make a lot of money off of third-party game sales. And so we had that state of play, and I was kind of checking out the general response and what people were saying about it, and how much, just kind of how much people enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it. And what I found interesting is that there seems to be a night and day difference in response and feedback. Optic Gamer 37, you're saying, I think you're giving Rockstar too much credit. I might be giving them too much credit. Maybe it's easy for me to give them too much credit, mainly because I don't really follow Rockstar that much anymore. I think you are right, actually. What they just did with the GTA, how sad is that, man? The GTA trilogy, definitive trilogy. Did you guys see? I just want to say this last thing in regards to Rockstar. Did you see how apparently it sold 10 million plus units, and what was it? Strauss Zelnick or whatever, the CEO of Take-Two Interactive, he comes out and he says, "Oh yeah, it's a huge success. It surpassed our expectations." And I'm like, "See, this is why you're right, Optic Gamer. I'm not gonna give Rockstar this credit, because it's shit like that is why we get shit like the disastrous launch that was the GTA Definitive Edition collection or whatever, because they know they can get away with it. They launched a broken piece of trash as far as I'm concerned, that it should have been handled with care. It should have been respected. And, they had the audacity, because it still sold really well based off of the GTA name and the Rockstar name. They have the audacity to come out here and be like, it sold better than we expected. It was a resounding success. It's like, screw you, like, I was so close to buying it due to nostalgia, but I'm glad that I resisted. And I'm glad, I will pat myself on the back, because you know what? I did speak with my wallet. I know that that's not going to change the overall success that the game is finding and that Rockstar has, but I did speak with my wallet, and I said, you know what? You guys release a completely broken game in an unacceptable state. You show just blatant disrespect to a series that people hold it very close and very dearly. And then you have the audacity to come out here and be like, oh yeah, it was great. Thanks for buying our game. I'm glad I didn't give them my $60, because they certainly don't deserve it. Anyway, sorry about that side tangent. Getting back to the state of play, what I find interesting is that when I look at the response, that the state of play for Hogwarts Legacy received versus the state of play that we got the week previously, where it was a regular state of play, 20 minutes long, focused on their Japanese publishers and partners, and they revealed the Returnal co-op DLC. I mean, it's literally, I'm not kidding you, a night and day difference, where people, anytime there is a normal state of play, I almost feel like Sony should rename. I don't want to say they shouldn't do regular state of plays anymore, because I understand that it's good for them as a publisher and as a platform holder, and I understand that it's good for indie devs and it's good for their partners, but they should really consider renaming whatever these are and not doing them as live streams. I'm serious. Like, they seemingly just get so much negativity thrown their way anytime there is a regular state of play, because no matter how much Sony sets expectations, no matter how many state of plays we get that are underwhelming and not exciting, people will not go in with reasonable expectations. And for this reason, I really feel that unless Sony is doing a state of play that is catered to a bigger game, like what we just got with Hogwarts Legacy, I really believe Sony should just rename what they currently call state of play when they show 20 minutes of smaller games. They should give it a new name. They should give it a new name and separate it from state of play, because I don't know what exactly they should call it. Maybe not state of play. Maybe they could just call it, like, I don't know, PlayStation. I don't know. Like, I'm on the spot. I would have to, maybe you guys can come up with a better PS Indie. I don't think they could call it PS Indie, because it's not just indie publishers and developers that are there. I almost feel like maybe something like PlayStation Partners, something, I don't know, just something. Maybe this is why they just call it state of play. They couldn't think of a name either. They're just like, you know what? PlayStation Insight. Definitely not PlayStation Presents. That's too PlayStation B Team. That's not offensive. State of Play Light. As silly as that sounds, I feel like that would convey. That's a good one. State of Play Light. As silly as that sounds, I feel like that would properly convey what people should expect. How would you be able, like, how would you go into a State of Play Light and not expect, like, you know, a minimal showing? They're literally telling you it's a light state of play. There's nothing big here. I don't know. That's a good one. I like that one, State of Play Light. But I feel like this is what Sony should seriously consider doing, because I just think it's hurting them. I do. PlayStation decaf. I feel Diet State of Play. There you go. I feel like it's just hurting them. When I look at the comments and the polls and just the general community response to a regular 20-minute State of Play, no, you know, there are obviously PlayStation fans who will come out and say, oh, well, there were a few things I saw that I liked and I thought it was pretty good. And there are also a lot of PlayStation fans like myself, and I'm sure many of you, who are like, guys, look, you know, Sony's made it clear that don't expect major announcements at a State of Play. And it just kind of comes off like, no matter how much we say that, it doesn't stop people. You know, it doesn't stop people from having these unrealistic expectations. And so I just feel like the only way Sony could really kind of correct it is don't call it a State of Play. If they don't call it a State of Play and they just call it something different, people will know. And I think another problem too is that it's the fact that it's live streamed. You know, when they do these live streams, they're sending a signal to the player base and to gamers that, hey, we want you to come here, to dedicate time out of your life at this exact moment to watch what we have to show you. And inherently, that conveys a sense of you should be excited. And the reason for that is because you're asking people to take time out of their life, you know, at a specific moment to watch what you have to show them. And if you do that, you know, through a live stream, and you give people a sense of FOMO, you know, you don't want people to feel like they don't want to miss out. They don't want to miss what might be announced. You are naturally, inherently setting expectations higher. So at the very least, what I think Sony should do is, if they don't want to rename the regular State of Plays, I would understand why. They've been doing it since 2019. Maybe they just want to keep the name. Okay, fine. You can keep calling it State of Play. Stop live streaming them. Just release them as videos. Just release the 20-minute video on your YouTube channel, on you know, through your blog, on every, you know, social media channel. If you do this, people, you are making it so people can no longer experience disappointment. You know what I mean? You just can't. People can't be disappointed. Like this latest State of Play, I literally told people, like, guys, expect nothing. Have zero expectation, because they're not going to show anything like over the top. Like, you're not going to see God of War here. You're not going to see a new PlayStation Studio title here. Just don't have any expectation. And a lot of you guys listened to me, but I still did see people where, you know, they were like laughing at the PlayStation fan base because they're like, this is what happens when you overhype shit. And I'm like, listen, there are some people who are overhyping it, but I think at this point in time, most people know when it's a State of Play that's not focused on a single game, prepare for disappointment, you know? Or maybe, you know, there were a few smaller things that people were excited about at the State of Play, the one we got previously. But when we look at this Hogwarts Legacy State of Play, it's just on another level. It's on another level. And I think it's a good thing. I think what Sony did for Hogwarts Legacy was pretty awesome, you know, and I really do hope that Sony continues to do this, because there are going to be a lot of big multi-platform titles that, you know, drop between now and the end of this generation. And I'm talking like some big multi-plat titles. And it would be in Sony's best interest, in my opinion, to try to court many of these titles, or as many as they can, with their partners and give them their own dedicated State of Plays. And I think that what Sony did with Hogwarts Legacy is a very clear indication that they're going to do this. I mean, I know we just talked about GTA, but do you see how there's a very close partnership still between PlayStation and Rockstar and Take-Two Interactive? There's no doubt in my mind that when GTA 6 is finally revealed, whether it be at the end of this year, sometime next year, I think the PlayStation branding will be on GTA 6. Could you imagine if Sony could work with Take-Two Interactive and Rockstar to, and I'm just talking about in terms of just how much attention Sony could get for their platform. Could you imagine if they could strike a deal with Rockstar where they're like, do you guys want to do a dedicated GTA 6 state of play? I mean, regardless of how GTA 6 turns out, and I know that I was just, bashing Rockstar, but still, they have that power in the industry. That would be a big deal. That would be a very big deal for Sony if they could do something like that. So, I just kind of something I'm excited to see. I want to see less of these smaller stated plays where they're focusing on a little game here, a little game there, nothing major. I would prefer to just see more of these types of stated plays where it's like, we're showing you the exciting stuff, and it doesn't have to be all the time. I see somebody saying GDC is this week. It's a big deal. Believe it or not, GDC, something that a lot of people don't know about GDC is where these video game publishers like Sony, they make a lot of deals. They make a lot of deals at GDC because everybody's getting together. Is it in person? I'm assuming it is. I mean, I feel like didn't they cancel GDC? I don't last year and the year before, I believe. No. I'm not hyping up GDC. You're not going to get any announcements. What I'm trying to say is that when all of these developers and these publishers, they congregate, this is where deals get made, believe it or not, behind closed doors, because they're in close proximity and people are talking. And so anytime GDC happens, you better believe that this is where Sony is trying to, make some deals happen. So, iSiler18, you're saying keep your expectations low, boy, and you'll never be disappointed. Yeah, I mean, that's like the most famous God of War quote. You see it everywhere. And I feel like at this point, Sony should embrace that quote with their regular state of plays. I really do. I think they should. And iSiler18, again, you're saying, imagine if Elden Ring had its dedicated state of play for its first gameplay showing. I was just thinking the same thing. Now, From Software and Bandai Namco, they had their own presentation, which is fine because, I think the reason why Warner Brothers was okay to do a state of play presentation with Sony was because they saw how much viewership the first trailer got specifically on the PlayStation YouTube channel. It got 28 million views. And so I think that Warner Brothers felt like, you know what? Maybe it would be better if we really do just kind of keep showcasing Hogwarts Legacy through the PlayStation channel. And I think that that's just kind of how they how they approached it. And why wouldn't they? We don't know if PlayStation is the reason that trailer got 28 million views, but the fact is it's there on the PlayStation YouTube channel. MBG, have you heard of the Quarry, a game by Until Dawn creators? I did. Yeah, I saw that announcement. It looks like almost like an Until Dawn sequel, doesn't it? And what's interesting about Until Dawn? Until Dawn was extremely successful for Sony. Like way more than Sony thought it was going to be. And it kind of makes you wonder why they maybe didn't pursue a sequel to Until Dawn or have them make another game. Maybe they just didn't have enough faith in them. But when I look at the Quarry, I'm like, yeah, that looks like, this literally looks like it should be a PlayStation 5 exclusive. It's basically the successor to Until Dawn. And because that's exactly what it looks like. So, but yeah, I'm sure people who really enjoyed Until Dawn will definitely pick that game up. Although I did see some people were feeling a little bit nervous about it. because it's like a $70 game, and some people are like, oh, every time a game is priced at $70, people suddenly become way more skeptical. As I don't know if it's going to be worth it. So yeah, but I guess when it comes to this conversation we're having about state of play, well, first of all, the Hogwarts Legacy state of play, the first ever state of play that Sony did that was focused on a third-party multi-platform title, was a resounding success. I actually want to give you guys updated numbers real quick so I can accurately convey how successful it was. I want to check to see where the viewership is at now. Give me 1 second to bring it up. There's the PlayStation YouTube channel. Yeah, so right now, the Hogwarts Legacy State of Play is sitting at 4.3 million views. That's a lot. Now, obviously, that's not anywhere near something like 28 million views, but we don't know how far that's going to go. But that's a lot of viewership for a 15-minute gameplay demo. Keep that in mind. It's a 15-minute gameplay demo. I don't know what Sony's expectations were, and I don't know what Warner Brothers' expectations were in terms of overall viewership. But to me, I think 4.3 million views on a 15-minute gameplay demo is definitely a success. And I could be wrong, but I feel like, some publishers are going to look at that and they're going to start to think, well, maybe we should do a state of play with Sony. So yeah, I wanted to take a couple moments to talk about that because I found it kind of fascinating, just the night and day difference when it comes to overall response and how people perceive state of plays. And I think that you're saying, MBG, keep in mind that most people watched it on other people's channels. Yeah, that too. I guess if you were to account for all the viewership, since it was a live stream, yeah, no doubt that it's much higher than 4.3 million. But yeah, I think that Sony needs to kind of really evaluate this, and they need to, I think, capitalize on it. They need to identify the fact that people love these state of plays that are dedicated to singular games, and there's like a 15-minute gameplay demo for them. People love them, and this is proof that even if it's not a PlayStation exclusive, people will still love them. And I just think Sony needs to reevaluate how they approach their regular state of plays because people do not love them. Straight up, I'm not saying people hate them, but they're just not getting the same type of love that you're seeing these types of state of plays get. So there we go. I just wanted to take some time to talk about that. But I want to move on to the next topic here, which this is going to be an interesting one, I think, because oh man, there's just so much conversation right now surrounding Gran Turismo 7. And this conversation can go many different ways, but there are a few things I want to preface this conversation with. First of all, and this is important for everybody to understand, so, take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. I am currently not playing Gran Turismo 7. I did not buy it, and I'm not playing it. So I cannot speak from a point of view where it's like, oh yeah, I'm a longtime GT fan and I'm playing GT7. I cannot speak from that point of view. I can only go based off of what I'm hearing from what I believe to be GT fans and GT7's player base. And so I just want to let you guys know that before I get into it, because I feel like it's important to know. But when it comes to the situation with GT7, this is pretty much what it boils down to. Going into the launch of GT7, there were no conversations whatsoever about microtransactions. I think most GT players and gamers assumed that the game will have microtransactions because past Gran Turismo games had microtransactions, so obviously they expected them to be there. But when the review process was happening, the microtransactions were not activated. So therefore, reviewers could not report what the microtransaction situation was like. As soon as GT7 launched and the review process was done, Sony turned on the microtransactions, and I don't know that they were trying to hide it. I can't say that they were, but it doesn't look very good. The reason why I say this is because, you know, as soon as they turned on the microtransactions, all you saw were write-ups and headlines that Sony changed the way microtransactions work in Gran Turismo 7, and they were not changed for the better. And so immediately, right out of the gate, Sony, and I want to make this clear. There's something else I have to make clear here too, and maybe somebody can provide. I don't know if anybody in the chat necessarily can provide any insight into this. I do not know how, I don't know how much freedom a PlayStation-owned studio has in this area. And I feel like that's extremely important for me to emphasize, because I don't know if this is Polyphony Digital's fault. I don't know if Polyphony Digital as a studio decided, you know what, we want to change the microtransactions and we want to get more money from them. I don't know if that was Polyphony Digital's choice or if that was from the higher-ups at Sony telling Polyphony Digital that that's what you need to do. I do want to point something out here, though, that I think is important and may give us a little bit of insight. I want to refer to Ghost of Tsushima Legends. Ghost of Tsushima Legends was a multiplayer component that was given out for free to Ghost of Tsushima owners. And they could have easily charged extra for it as DLC if they wanted to. They did not. On top of that, this was a multiplayer game that had elements in it that could be very easily monetized. And I mean very easily monetized. So they could have filled it with microtransactions, and they didn't. So what we're seeing here is we have Sucker Punch, one of Sony's prime studios, releasing a multiplayer component that could very easily be filled with microtransactions and very easily be charged for. It's given out for free with 0 microtransactions, and people are like, you guys are awesome. This is amazing. Thank you. And then we have Polyphony Digital, another one of Sony's prime studios, where we are currently witnessing the exact opposite. GT7 is a full-priced game, $70 if you're playing on PS5, and it does have microtransactions. And the microtransactions are seemingly going in a concerning direction. Ghost of Tsushima Legends is sold as a standalone for $20, but keep in mind it was given out for free to anybody who bought Ghost of Tsushima. They could have charged $20 as DLC if they wanted to, or something like that. So, I just want to point this out because it makes me think that, okay, it seems like it's up to the studio. I can't prove that. And we have to keep in mind that that might not be the case, but I just don't see how Sucker Punch can do something like that, where it's like, yeah, we're not going to charge for this multiplayer. We're not even going to put microtransaction in. We're just going to sell it for $20 as a standalone if anybody wants it. I don't understand how Sucker Punch, one of Sony's biggest and best studios, can do that. And then Polyphony Digital is doing this. You know what I mean? What it tells me is that Sony is not dictating things from the top. And I have to say this because in my video where I talked about this, I had it the other way around, where I said, I think this is Sony's fault. By that, it's like, oh, I'm blaming Jim Ryan. It's Jim Ryan's fault, and it's the upper executives at Sony. They're mandating. They're forcing Polyphony Digital to do this. I don't think that's the case. We've heard nothing but good things from PlayStation Studios when it comes to creative freedom and what the autonomy that they have. Truth Decay, I'm not being an apologist. You need to hear me out here. I am not defending Sony. I'm just simply saying that if it's on a studio by studio basis, I cannot bring a hammer down on Sony as a whole and crush all of their studios if all of their studios are doing different things. Do you understand? If their studios have autonomy, I'm going to give Sucker Punch the thumbs up and say, you guys are awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. But then I'm going to look at Polyphony Digital. I'm going to say, you guys need to be very careful. If I just blame Sony as an entity, then that's assuming that, I don't want to call out the wrong entity here. I don't want to bring the hammer down on the wrong entity. I just want it, but yeah, I see what Astro you're saying. Sony makes all the final decisions, and yeah, you are, I think, correct about that. And that's where things are interesting with this scenario, because maybe it's the other way around. Maybe Sony, like Jim Ryan and the executives higher up, are getting frustrated with, maybe they're getting frustrated with Polyphony Digital because they're like, guys, this is our biggest franchise, and you're bringing a lot of negativity towards it. What are you guys doing? These are just things we have to consider, because I don't know the inner workings, but still, that doesn't make it any better. Jahan, I don't know how to pronounce your name, but I'll just call you JH. You're saying, I think you were looking at the wrong thing. The problem is not the microtransactions. The problem is the online all the time. No, that's a big issue as well. I know I'm more focused on the microtransactions, but you could argue that maybe that's an even bigger issue. Where I stand with this is a single player game or a video game that can be played solo should never be required to be connected to the internet. Ever. Like that just it should not require an internet connection. You should be able to experience every single piece of content that the game offers, if it's single player or can be played solo, without an internet connection. Period. End of discussion. And I don't care the reasoning why, publishers say, well, this is why we have to do this. I don't care. Like, it just shouldn't be a thing. It just shouldn't be. And you know what? In this case with Gran Turismo 7, they're saying it was to prevent cheating or something along those lines. Okay, I get that. I get that that's maybe like, oh, that's a good thing for the players. Then why is it that when the servers are down for over 24 hours, the entire GT7 player base is pissed off? They're pissed off because they're like, we can't play this game that we just paid $60 or $70 for. We're locked out of the majority of our content because we need to be connected to the internet at all times and their servers are down. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. Like they just paid full price. It's not like, oh, well, the only thing you can't do is just race other players online. No, with GT7, it's massive chunks of content that you paid for, you now can't experience, even though this content could be played solo if you wanted to. I just want it to be known, guys, that this is important. I know that there are a lot of PlayStation fans. Well, Harry Johnson, you're saying the outrage is so dumb, it's all optional. I understand where you're coming from, Harry, but I want you to try to understand this as well. PlayStation fans have an obligation to an extent to keep Sony honest, right? And to call out the things that, come on, let's call this for what it is. This is DRM. What was it again that completely crushed Microsoft in 2013 with the reveal of the Xbox One? The always online DRM. And Sony, see, people don't know this. Sony was planning on doing the same thing or something similar, but when they saw the response that Microsoft got, they were like, yeah, never mind about that one. To me, that's the craziest thing about, if you go back to 2013 with the reveal of the Xbox One and the PS4, most people don't know this, but Microsoft, people wonder why. They're like, how could Microsoft be so stupid? How could Microsoft be so dense as to just go out there and announce always online DRM when everybody was going to hate it? Because Microsoft was under the impression that everybody else was going to do it, that they were all in it together. And Microsoft went out there first. They got ripped to shreds. Sony saw how violently they got ripped to shreds. Sony did a complete U-turn and actually capitalized on that by being like, disc-based games, no DRM, offline play, and people were cheering. You're like, yes. And I just want it to be known that what we're seeing with GT7 right now is exactly the very thing that you were booing Microsoft for in 2013. Now, I know times have changed. I know 2013 was a while ago, and it's become more widely accepted that, a lot of games are online only and required, but still, we have to keep, I don't even want to say the same energy because the energy changes over time. But I'm just saying that if you have to think about this from a broader sense where it's like, if Sony is willing to incorporate DRM, always online DRM, into a game like GT7 where it doesn't need to be there, I know that they have their reasoning for it to be there, where they don't want people cheating and whatnot. But the question is, does it need to be there? Like, is it really a need in order for people to just enjoy the game? I don't think so. Now, I just want it to be known that I'm saying this as somebody who does not play GT7. And because of that, there could be things I'm missing here. But what I can tell you is that I have seen a lot of GT players coming out and saying that they do not like the fact that this game is online only, and they don't want it to be that way. Rudy, you're saying, with all respect, you don't know what you're talking about. GT7 is the same game it's been since us gearheads could care less about microtransactions and always online. And you know what? I'm gonna talk about that too, Rudy, because I don't want you guys to misunderstand what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that if you are somebody who bought GT7 and you're currently loving the game and you're enjoying it and it's everything you hoped it would be, I am not sitting here telling you that you need to be upset, you need to be outraged, and you need to be pissed off. Absolutely not. And I don't want people to think that. What I am saying is that we need, I'm talking from just a general point of view, just as an overall PlayStation fan, where we need to watch out for what Sony plans to do going forward. Because frankly, I could just turn around and be like, I don't care about any of this. I'm not playing GT7. Like, I'm just not a GT player. I could just turn around and say, I don't care. It doesn't affect me. But this is Sony's biggest franchise. And we know that Sony is planning to release, they said it themselves, 10 live service games by 2026. That means like 2 live service games per year. That's a lot. And I'm sure at least one of them is going to be like SOCOM. Another one's going to be The Last of Us Factions. A lot of these games. I just want to make sure that we're not going to just witness Sony start going into this direction that we don't like. This isn't, come on guys, this is not what PlayStation fans want overall. We want multiplayer games. We have no problem with that. We don't even mind a couple live service games. We don't even mind some free-to-play games that have microtransactions, but we have to look at this for what it really is. And I'm going to be straight up with you right now. I totally understand and get behind the sentiment of, look, if you bought GT7 and you're playing the game and you love the grind, and this is what it's about, right? Like, it's about the grind and you're loving it and you're like, I don't care about those microtransactions. I'm not buying them. Good. I'm glad. Like, that's a good mentality to have, but you have to look just a little bit further, not much further, to realize that microtransactions should not fucking be in a full price game. Just straight up. I do not care whether it's Sony, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Activision, whether it's Rox. I do not give a shit. And I know that the battle is lost. I know that. I'm not sitting here saying boycott all games, full price games that have microtransactions. That ain't going to do shit. That's not going to stop people from buying their games. The best thing I can tell you is make sure you stick with that. If you go and you buy a game and you say, I don't need I'm not buying those microtransactions, they mean nothing to me, keep that mentality and do not support it, because I fear that that's what's happening with GT7, and I fear that this is why we are seeing changes. Now, I want to apologize because I went this long talking about this topic and I have yet to actually explain what's happening. So let me give you, let me put my personal feelings aside for a minute here so I can explain to you exactly why this is not such a good thing. Space D, you're saying through DRM, people, hold on, through DRM, realized people were grinding so fast, and that's why they made that offline mess and updated prices. They basically don't want grinding. Yeah, see, that's where things get really, really shady, man. Where, yeah, you I think you're Space D, I think you're pointing it out, man, where it's like they want total control over, like, fine-tuning over every little aspect, where it's like they don't want people being able to go. Hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. There's a better way to explain this. They want to set the wall, is what I'm trying to say. Like, they don't want people to go further than where they set the wall. And I think that's a little messed up. It depends on how they handle it, but right now they're not handling it well. Harry Johnson, you're saying, don't know why Sony and Microsoft continue making games with all this complaining going on. Users always crying about everything. Harry, dude, look, man, you got to understand that. I mean, you don't have to understand anything, but it's not just about crying about everything. Nothing can be perfect. If it was, you're right, we would have nothing to complain about. And the problem that you're speaking to, Harry, it's people getting way too crazy. Like, people, like, there's a difference between, you know what? I'm a little concerned and I'm a little upset with what's going on right now. There's a difference between that, and you can't confuse that, because that's genuine. Like, people, it's like when people tell me, like, dude, no GT fan is upset right now. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. There are plenty of genuine, real GT players who are not very happy right now, and they have some issues and concerns, and they want Sony to acknowledge them. And they're expressing it in the only ways they can, in certain forums, online. But then there are people, you cannot confuse those individuals with the people, like, I don't know, the toxic Xbox fan. And yes, there are toxic PlayStation fans who do this exact same thing to PlayStation, so I'm not just calling out the toxic Xbox fans, I'm calling out all the toxic people where there's a real problem, there's real concern, and you get these people that come out and they're like, GT7 sucks. It's the worst thing ever. Sony is screwing it up entirely. Sony is burning it all down. Sony is turning against their fan base. It's like, whoa. You're not speaking for the people who actually have real concerns. You're coming off like a maniac that just wants to scream about something. And Sony will never, not just Sony, but no company, no publisher, no platform holder will ever listen to those maniacs. The loud people who are not helping anything, they're just causing more problems. And I feel like it's really important to acknowledge that, because yes, there are people doing that right now, and they're just hurting everything, But anyway, JH, you're saying GT7 is great, but I think I talk by all the GT fans that I think what you mean to say is you're talking for all of the GT fans, saying that we all absolutely hate the online only. And I have played all the GTs, big F to Sony. And that's the thing, man, is like, there are players who are fine with it. And I mean, I know that you want to speak for every GT fan. There's no doubt that there are players on GT7 right now that just don't care that it's online only. And I get that. And I think that's their prerogative. I'm not going to them and saying you should be upset. That's not my decision to make for them. They can decide that themselves. But right now, there is enough brewing within the community. There's enough brewing within the community that, it seems Sony's going to have to do something. And obviously, Kazunori Yamauchi, he came out and he did a write-up, which I don't know that it helped that much, but he did a write-up, and clearly it's something that they have to acknowledge. And so, again, I apologize. I have to explain why exactly people are upset. Okay, so we established the online-only aspect of GT7 and why a lot of people are very upset about that. When it comes to the microtransactions, as I said, there was no talk about them going into the review process. There was no talk about them during the review process. But as soon as the review process ended, they exploded because, they activated and there was a big change. And I'm going to explain to you what the big change was. So in GT Sport, which was the previous Gran Turismo, players had the option to buy individual cars. And these individual car prices ranged from $2 to $5. All right. Now, I don't know how many people were buying these cars individually, but I have to assume that maybe not as many people were buying these cars as maybe Polyphony Digital wanted, or maybe even Sony wanted. All right. But that's how it worked before. So if you're somebody who's playing GT7, right, or GT Sport, you're grinding and you're grinding. You're like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy a car just because $5. You just pay Sony $5, pay Polyphony Digital $5, you get the car. It's just kind of like it's not a pay to win. As far as I'm aware, and I'm gonna rely on GT players to let me know whether I'm correct on this or not. From my understanding with GT games is that they're not pay to win. Like, even though you can buy like good cars, buying those good cars won't automatically make you win races. Like, you still have to have the skill necessary to use a good car, to drive a good car properly in order to win races. By that I mean you could be using a not so great car, but still win races because of your skill level. I think I'm getting that right. Again, I haven't played, so I'm relying on GT players to tell me if that's a correct assessment or not. And I'm looking to the chat to see if anybody's going to respond to that. I know there's a little bit of a delay. But you're saying that somebody says that's not correct. Not on a straightaway. I do assume ultimately it's a little bit more nuanced. Most people are saying most races are performance points based. That's not how it works. You have to play the game to get cars. Why is this concept such a difficult one now? This is fluff from Xbox fans that don't want the game. Well, no. Well, that's the thing I'm trying to say here is it's not, look, it's not that people are upset that they have to grind in a game to unlock stuff. What people are upset about is the fact that Polyphony Digital as well as Sony are making it clear that we'll alter that grind any way we need to do so in order to, kind of push people more into the direction of buying microtransactions. So anyway, you could buy cars individually. All right. And I think people were okay with this. Like, I don't recall seeing many people complain at all that you could buy individual cars for $2, $3, $4, $5 in GT Sport. What Sony decided to do, or what Polyphony Digital decided to do with GT7, is you can no longer buy cars individually. You can only buy credit packs. And these credit packs range from like $5 for X amount of credits to like $20 for way more credits, like 3 million. I don't know what the prices are exactly. But the point is you have to buy credits. And this really bothered people because essentially what it boiled down to is cars that you could previously purchase in GT Sport for about $5 total would now cost you $40. And the reason why it would cost you $40 is because you can't just outright buy the car. You have to buy the credit packs. And in order to buy enough credit packs or, microtransactions to buy that car that was once $5, it would cost you about $40. You're saying wrong. They said in the letter that they are actively making new advents to tone down the need to grind. You are correct. You are correct. And I do want to highlight that as well. All right, I do want to highlight that as well. Kazunori Yamauchi said in the letter addressed to fans that they are working on correcting this, that they are in the process of tweaking things. And I think that is extremely important. Probably the most important thing to highlight here, because what this means is that they are working on it, and the next time they come out and say, these are the changes we made, they could very well uproot the whole thing and make it what it should be, right? But it's just that, he said it himself, they can't reveal what they're doing yet. And I don't know why exactly that is. Like, to me, it just, I don't know, man. To me, it just seemed like, why would you go with a whole new system? Just take the system that you had in GT Sport and put it in GT7. Like, why wouldn't you do that? And so I do just want to make it clear that they are working on it, and they might bring it back. So you don't get all the hate for microtransactions. They are optional. Yes, that's true. They are optional. But again, man, like, you have to be careful how much leniency and how much power you are giving to billion-dollar corporations that are looking to extract as much money out of you as they can. That's what I'm trying to say, man. Like, is selling millions of copies of a game at full price, that's not enough anymore? Now we need to insert microtransactions into these full-price games? Oh, well, they're optional, so it's okay? Okay, sure, fine. But now you're dealing with games that are online only, and they're talking about, you can't buy cars individually now. And again, like, look, I'm just going to be real right now. I'm going to be real right now. I am baffled as to why there are some people who cannot identify the problem here. Like, again, I'm not saying you need to be angry about it. You can be indifferent to the problem. That's what I want people to understand. You are allowed to be indifferent to the problem. But how can you not see the problem here? Like, again, to me, the biggest, most clear problem is the fact that they changed the way microtransactions work. That was them, Polyphony Digital, that is. The fact that they changed how they did microtransactions in GT7, where you could just buy cars individually, to what it is now, to where now you would have to pay $30, $40, $20, $30, $40 for a single car. This should tell you all you need to know. That is the problem. That is greed. That is them altering something that already existed for the sake of, we want more money from this. And I know you can say it's optional. Yes, that's true. And that's why I'm encouraging you. If you are not upset because it's optional and you don't plan to buy any, good. But we still need to ask Polyphony Digital and ask Sony, why are you guys making this that much more expensive? Why are you guys trying to wring even more out of people who were maybe willing to buy microtransactions for a few bucks here and there? That's the problem here. And look, this is another thing I want to say. I know that there are a lot of people defending GT7, and there are PlayStation fans who are defending this, and they're trying to be like, it's nothing. Come on now. Do not turn to me and make it seem like if this was Xbox, you wouldn't also be calling them out. This is where it gets frustrating as a PlayStation fan, where it's like, guys, we have called Microsoft out on bullshit over and over and over again, and people get extreme on the internet. I've been there, where they are fucking dunking on Xbox. But now that it's Sony maybe doing something a little bit, I don't know. It's nothing. This is why, man. Like, this is why. And I'm expressing my frustration towards the PlayStation fan base, because this is real. This is exactly why Sony thought for a brief moment they could fucking get away with selling Horizon Forbidden West with a $10 PS5 upgrade. And they learned real quick, oh shit, wait, we said before, do you guys not realize that if we, the players, the gamers, the consumer, if we did not turn our heads, look directly at Jim Ryan and Sony and say, excuse me, what the fuck did you just say? They would have charged $10 for the PS5 upgrade to Horizon. That's what people don't understand here. This is why you cannot give them an inch, because if you do, they will take not just 1 mile, They'll take 10 miles if you let them, because they are billion-dollar corporations, and I do not blame them. It is their job, it is their goal to extract as much money from you as they can. But we, as the consumer, we need to be able to draw lines. Now, I did not get as outraged as a lot of other people did. I did not get as outraged as a lot of other people did when Sony was like, we want to charge $70 for our PS5 games. I'm like, okay, like I can live with that. You're telling me it's a new generation, you're going to have all these things. It's not the best look for Sony, but as a player of their games who support their games, fine. But then they from time to time, they start to do these little things where it's like, okay, like now you're starting to blatantly show your greed. You know what I mean? Like now you're starting to show some disrespect to the fan base. And this is why I just think it's crazy. I just think it's crazy. The more I think about it, I think it's crazy how, and maybe I blame myself a little bit, that Sony at the start of this generation, with the PS5, they're like, oh yeah, we'll give you Spider-Man Miles Morales upgrade for free. Yeah. And we're going to do it for Horizon as well. And Sackboy. These are free upgrades. And then they just decided as they went further into the generation, you know what? Never mind. Pay us $10. And at first, I was like, you know what? $10, it's not a big deal. And again, it's more of a principle thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, yes, $10 is not a big deal to most people. I mean, for some people it is, But like, for me, it's like, well, if I want to play this PS5 version of a game, I got to pay $10. I just can't sit back and just watch I don't know if it's a large portion, but a portion of the PlayStation fan base just gives Sony a pass here, because you need to understand that they're going to take that pass. They're going to charge you more money. They're going to want more money out of you. I'm not the type of person that cares about the race to the bottom. You've heard me express my concern about, anytime there's services and how are AAA games going to be so high quality and cheap services. And you guys know, like, I have my concerns in a lot of these areas, but it can go the other way as well, where it's like, I'm giving Sony a lot of credit because it's like, yo, Sony, you need a little bit more money to make your games better. Okay, fine. That's reasonable. You make some of the best games and I love your games. Okay, fine. But then it's like, well, now you want to make GT7 online only? Oh, okay. It seems like people don't really want that, but okay. And now you're going to change your microtransactions up, and now you're buying Bungie, and now you got 10 live service games, and it's like, whoa. Like, I'm just as excited as the next guy for the next single player, AAA game from Sony, God of War, and a lot of other things that they have coming out. But I cannot watch this and just be like, well, whatever, yeah, sure, no, it's fine. And I get people like, it's optional. Yes, but that's like, you're right. It is optional. And as I said, there's nothing wrong with you deciding, I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't care. Okay, fine. You're choosing indifference. That's fine. You are allowed to do that. But me as a PlayStation fan, where the reason why I came back to PlayStation, and the reason why I have been so supportive of PlayStation, and the reason why I have been seriously, just out here passionate about the brand, I'll tell you right now, it's not because of what Sony is fucking doing right now with GT7. I was never passionate about that. That's just how it is, man. Like, I'm going to call it for what it is, and I just think that Sony needs to get their shit together. A lot of people are trying to tell me, they're like, oh, dude, you just listen to the Xbots. And look, yes, there are toxic Xbox fans out there that are acting like complete jackasses that are not helping the situation. But this is not about that. This is about the brand, the platform, not even the brand, the platform that I support with my money, that I care about, obviously, and I need. This is about the platform that I support, and me caring about the direction they are going in. Because believe me when I tell you, if you become too lenient, a lot of people are like, It's fine. It's going to be great. Sony's got it, man. No problem. If you keep that mentality at all times, you will find you're going to wake up one day and you're going to see some kind of hellscape where Sony's no longer making nearly as many single-player games. Their single-player games are going to have microtransactions in them. You're going to have online-only single-player games. Look, I'm not saying that we're headed in that direction, but I'm saying this is how it slowly starts to seep in, how it slowly starts to creep in. And it's slow because there's a reason why I pointed out 2013 when Sony literally dunked on Xbox saying, we don't have always online DRM. You could play all our games offline play for the PS4. We're seeing Sony slowly just make that little turn where it's like, okay, well, maybe we can make GT7 online only. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. It's like, oh, okay, all right. GT7 online only. What about 5 more years from now? What about 10 more years from now? How many games are going to be online only then? Just saying, man, like, I'm not saying everybody has to agree with me. Just like when I go on my rants about some of the shit, and we're going to have something to say about Xbox as well today. But when I go on my rants about other platforms and other publishers, you guys have to understand that if we pride ourselves as PlayStation fans, and this is the last thing I want to say, if we pride ourselves as PlayStation fans on the products that Sony puts out and the way Sony conducts themselves with their studios and their games, we're like, Sony brings out AAA single player bangers. They're not all about those microtransactions. They're not doing the same bullshit that other publishers are. Then we need to kind of keep that up if we don't want to see that change. That's all I'm saying, because, that's a real possibility. And I know I see people like defend Jim Ryan, and I get that. Like, I don't think Jim Ryan is the death of PlayStation. There are a lot of people who have this extreme mentality. Like, what Cape Crusader, you likened him to Don Matrick. I don't think it's that severe. But if there's one thing that I have learned about Jim Ryan since he became the head of PlayStation is, yes, he has been... See, this is one thing I respect a lot about Jim Ryan. Jim Ryan has been at PlayStation since 1994, since its inception. So he's an OG, man. Like, he knows PlayStation from top to bottom. And I respect the hell out of that. And I would want somebody like that running PlayStation, somebody who's been there through thick and through thin. But what I've also learned about Jim Ryan is that he is a businessman, an executive at a corporation before anything else when it comes to his public perception, that is. I don't know anything about his personal life, nor should I. But when we talk about Jim Ryan, that's his job. And he does not, like, I'll tell you right now, Jim Ryan ain't sitting at home playing Elden Ring. Jim Ryan ain't at home sitting down playing Horizon at night. He's not. He's just not. That's not him. At least that's I'm pretty sure when Jim Ryan on occasion is asked what he's playing, he just lists the latest game that came out. Excuse me. And I just feel like that's where, like, look, some people, before I move on to the next topic, some PlayStation fans ask me, and I got to read these super chats too. They ask me, they're like, don't you want to see PlayStation grow? Don't you want to see them make more money so they can make their games bigger and better, and so they can... And absolutely, yes. As somebody who is passionate about the PlayStation brand and the platform, yes, I want that as the ultimate goal. And I know that money is necessary to make that happen, but there is a right way and a wrong way to go about it. And for the most part, I know I just went on that big rant, and I know some people are going to be like, you're a fear-monger, MBG. Then listen to this part. For the most part, for the past decade, pretty much since PlayStation started, but it's, talking about more of the digital age now, the live service age. For the past decade, Sony has been on point, and they've been doing a great job. My whole stance is I don't want to see that change. I don't want to see that start to crumble slowly because of mistake after mistake after mistake that is centered around penny pinching. And that I think is the one thing we need to highlight. Like people have said, they said, why the hell does Sony care so much about the $10 upgrade path? Like why do they feel the need to extract that little bit of money from their customers? You know, like, is that really necessary? The answer is absolutely not. The reality of the situation is PlayStation is making more money than they ever have. PlayStation as a brand, as a platform, is making more money than Xbox, Nintendo, or anybody else out there. So here's the reality. No, Sony absolutely does not need that extra $10, nor do their development studios when it comes to upgrading from PS4 to PS5. And I understand that we try to rationalize these things by being like, well, it's not that big of a deal. And I guess it's not, depending on your position. It doesn't have to be a big deal. But what are the long-term implications of this? What are the implications of, well, if they don't really need that extra $10, you know, like if they're going to already make millions and millions of dollars just based off the sales alone, why can't they just throw us a bone and give us the free upgrade? It's because, dude, like that's where Jim Ryan steps in. Jim Ryan is the guy that's like, can we make more money off of it? Can we extract more from it? And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, because this is where I do put my foot down not as a PlayStation fan, as a person with my own principles, and just as a gamer before anything else. Somebody who likes video games and cares about the industry. Ever since Jim Ryan took over PlayStation, I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but as somebody who covers them and has been covering them for years now, every day, and I've been following, they have been taking more risks and pushing more so than they ever have before, maybe not since the early PS3 days, to see what they can and cannot get away with. And I need everybody who is, you know, the diehard I bleed blue PlayStation fan to understand that that is a real thing that we have been witnessing since Jim Ryan took over, and it will continue. And it is our job as the core fan base that keeps PlayStation where they are, and we are half the reason for their success. It is our job to make sure that when we identify and when we see that, oh, there's Jim Ryan again. Jim Ryan's pushing. He's pushing. He's seeing, can I push the envelope this far? We got to really sit down and figure out, like, is this okay or is it not? Because like I said, you give him an inch, they'll take a mile. That's business 101, you know? And so that's it. That's and here's the great thing about everything I just said. It doesn't just have to apply to PlayStation. What I just said can apply to anybody who is a fan of any other platform or any other publisher. You know, you got to be careful. Now, and the final thing I have to say is that not all battles, we cannot win every battle, but we don't want to lose the war, all right? And that's important to identify as well. You know, like I said, there's a reason why we can't boycott. We can't yell at Sony and say, Sony, don't you dare. I just hit my desk. Don't you dare, because I got to wag my finger everywhere. Don't you dare even try to put microtransactions in your full-priced $60 or $70 video games. Don't even try it. We lost that battle a while ago. And you know why we lost that battle? We lost that battle because there are a lot of people, when publishers first started introducing microtransactions into full-price video games, they did not care. And some of them, enough of them, even bought these microtransactions. And that sent the signal to the publisher that, damn, this works. We can do this. And that's why, mark my words, people. Mark my words. I want you to remember I'm saying this. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but just remember I'm saying this because it could be 2 years from now. It could be 5 years from now. It could be never. And I hope it's never. But it would not shock me. It would not shock me if at some point in time, if PlayStation continues on the path of success and growing the way that they are, I believe we will see the day. There's a chance we could see the day. And I know there are going to be PlayStation fans who listen to what I say right now. They're going to be like, this is blasphemy. That's insanity. No way. We may see the day where a single player AAA full price video game for Sony launches with microtransactions in them. I know. But I'm just saying, they're planting the seeds now. The seeds have already been planted by other publishers. We've seen that shit. All right. And it's gotten pretty bad. It's gotten better. I remember like 2017 and 2018. Oh my God. The shit that some publishers were trying to get away with. It was insane. But just keep in mind, man, that if there's one thing Jim Ryan is aware of, is how successful PlayStation is as a brand. Is how that's the thing. All PlayStation fans, we want to beat our chest and be like, Sony's on top, bro. Sony's the best. PlayStation's the best. Nothing can touch them. We got to be careful how much we're celebrating that, because if the executives start to realize that or believe that, we're going to see Sony, the 2006 Sony, start to come back. And that's the last. That is the worst version of Sony. That is the worst version of PlayStation. We do not want to see the 2006 version of PlayStation, and Jim Ryan was there for that too. So there we go. There's my rant on that. Okay. All right, let me get to the super chats. I do apologize for taking so long to get to the super chats, but I was on a roll there, I think. So let me see. All right, so we're going back to JH. You're saying the online now in GT7 is limited by power. So if you have a supercar, you can either tune down or don't use it. On GT Sport, they give you the car. Okay, yeah. These are like the ins and outs of the game that I'm not. It's difficult for me to wrap my head around exactly how it works. Only because I have considered trying to get into GT7 so I can figure out for myself. But again, it would still be difficult for me to position that against past games because I haven't played past games. Trinity of the Phoenix, you're saying online only prevents access. That's unacceptable. Space D, you're saying sounds like GT7 is just a rushed GT Sport remaster. Darren says people confusing always online with always relying on game servers. GT7 is the latter. Solo racing shouldn't rely on game servers, period. Agreed. Truth Decay, you're saying, and this is after they increased the unit price from 60 to 70. That wasn't enough. A 15% sticker price increase wasn't enough. That's what I'm trying to say, man. Like, we talk about, well, what's enough for Sony or PlayStation? I mean, dude, Sony and PlayStation, they're a corporation. It's never enough. It will never be enough. But we have. That's where we, as the consumer, we have to draw the line. We have to be the ones to tell them this is enough. This is enough. Okay. And I also want to say that I think some of Sony's decisions since the PS5 launched and even to the build to the PS5, I'm telling you now, Sony has literally just lobbed the ball up for Microsoft to just knock it out of the park, where Sony makes it so clear that we want those extra dollars, that all Microsoft has to do is, well, damn, they're not even hiding it. We don't want your extra dollars. You see what I'm saying? That Sony does it for them sometimes. And I just think that's just, there are times where we can and will rationalize it, and I think it's okay, but it's difficult. It's difficult. It's a balance with all of this, because if you go too far in one direction, man, you're gonna get screwed. Question for you, MBG. Do you think with how much pushback Hogwarts got, do you think cancel culture could cancel this game? No way. No. And I'm not here to say, look, I think it's ridiculous. I'm just going to be real. I think people who were getting that worked up about Hogwarts Legacy, no. Guys, this is this is where each person has to ask themselves, if you do not feel comfortable buying Hogwarts Legacy and it bothers you, then don't buy it. But if you think that's going to stop millions of other people who could give a shit less from buying that game, You need to understand, if you're going to stand on a hill and you're ready to die on that hill, you need to be ready to potentially die on that hill either alone or with very few other people. And that's the reality. That's all. So that's, not getting too deep into it, but that's what people need to realize when it comes to where your money is your money. You choose where it's going to go. And that's how it goes. Period. Have you seen the Reddit gaming leaks and rumors? Actually, no, I didn't check it today. I'll check that in a little bit. Let me see. Steady Flow, you're saying they're doing it because they want you to actually play the game. The difference you can't play to earn in Halo Infinite while you can earn in GT7. Steady Flow, listen. See, I have this thought in my head sometimes too, and I have this it's not a thought, it's like a battle where it's like I want to see the glass half full and I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but there are just times in life where it's clear, it becomes too clear to me that like I'm just being naive. I am, because Steady Flow, you could see it that way, and I guess you could say to an extent it comes down to perspective, but we need to be real here, and that's not why they're doing this, man. All right, like they're not doing this and I'm going to tell you why, Steady Flow. If what you say is true, that they're doing this because they want you to play the game, then there would be no microtransactions. You see what I'm saying? That's the best way to get people to play your game. Don't give them any other way to skip over anything or to fast track to anything. You just don't have them, and therefore everybody's forced to play the game. And that's why I can't see it that way, because that's not true. That's not the truth. That is a perception that people can have, and I understand, but that's the perception that probably they want you to have, but that's not the reality. And let's make something clear. You talk about Halo Infinite, guys, understand Microsoft is just as guilty. Microsoft is just as guilty in a lot of, like, at least by just as guilty. What I'm talking about is, yes, Xbox wants your money too. I go on these rants about Game Pass, about how Xbox is like, yo, we got the best deal. It's like, yeah, you do, but don't you still want my money? You think they're going to be like, no, yeah, they want your money. And if they could get all your money, they would get it, just like Sony. But when you look at a game like Halo Infinite, it's a free-to-play game, man. You know what I mean? Like, hey, by that I mean the multiplayer. They're non-comparable. If GT7 was free to play, I literally wouldn't be talking about this right now, about the microtransactions. It would be a non-conversation, because I think that free-to-play games are the only games that justify microtransactions. Not egregious microtransactions, but that's how I see it. And I just think that I want to have your perception, and I have for a while, Steady Flow, but that's not the reality. That's not the truth. The truth is, man, if Polyphony Digital and PlayStation just wanted people to play the game more, they wouldn't have microtransactions to any extent. They would just have, what's in the game. Space D, you're saying, get them MBG. Salomon, you're saying, I got Horizon Forbidden West and GT7 day one just to get slapped by Sony. Elden Ring has more content. Good Sony didn't buy FromSoft, and I won't buy day one games unless it's Metal Gear Solid. Well, I can't speak to GT7 directly because I didn't purchase it, but I don't agree with you with Horizon. I'm very satisfied with Horizon. See, Horizon to me is exactly where, like, I don't want to see. See, I know people are all about, some people make it sound like, oh, gamers complain about everything. That's not true, man. Like, dude, PlayStation fans were out here feeling pretty good about Horizon. I'm feeling pretty good about it. And what I'm here to say is that Horizon is a prime example of a game like Sony. Keep doing that and improve there. You know what I mean? And I paid, I paid $70 for the I didn't even care about the free upgrade. I'm like, I want the physical version. So I paid 70, and it feels well worth it, man. I'm like 45 hours into the game, and I'm still nowhere close to being 100%. And there's no microtransactions. There's no online only. It's just a game. It's just a single player experience, you know? So I want to see more of that from Sony. I also want to make it clear, just I'm not the guy that is completely against Sony making more multiplayer games or even trying live service games. I'm not against it because I think they could be great. The only thing I'm against is if Sony is letting greed drive those games. That's the only thing I'm concerned about, because we've seen how wrong that can go and how quickly that can just become a dumpster fire. Very concerning stuff. Harry, you're saying in the GT7 game description, it says always online. What's the problem? Do you research first before buying a game? Well, again, Harry, man, I'm not trying to fight with you or anything. I'm not here to try to convince you of anything. I'm just here to give you my thoughts and my opinion on something and maybe try to get you to see it that way. I can see where you're coming from. Again, Harry, you're choosing indifference, and that's okay too. I'm not saying there's a problem with your indifference. All I'm saying is that if enough people become indifferent, things could change. And those changes might not be ideal. That's all I'm saying, man. That's all I'm saying. Because what you're saying is true as well. What you are speaking a truth where it's if enough people had a problem with this, then maybe they should say, oh, well, it's online only, I'm not buying it. And if enough people didn't buy it, but that's where, believe it or not, the gamer in 2022 has more power than ever before. We're powerful, It sounds silly, but it's true. I know I talk about how places like Twitter are terrible and the internet itself can be terrible. Of course it can, but it can be good too. All these places are outlets and areas where these companies and these brands and their reputation, this is where they exist, and we can directly interact with it. I want to remind people that Microsoft is not innocent themselves either. I'm only throwing this up because this is a great example of how the internet and the gamers have more power than ever before. Do you remember how I think it was sometime last year, Microsoft just made the boneheaded move where they're like, hey guys, we're going to double the price of Xbox Live. They just for no reason. They're just coming out and like, yeah, we're going to double the price. And the internet was just like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. And Microsoft was like, yeah, you're right. That's not going to happen. We're not going to do that. You see what I'm saying? It's like, this is where you see the power if enough people. That's why I'm saying it's okay. I guess I feel like I'm going to say it's okay because it's not my place to truly decide anything definitively, but I understand why a lot of people are indifferent. I would just encourage people, try not to be as indifferent. At least try to see why people are upset and hear it out and understand and try to figure out why are people outraged right now? Is it really all fake outrage? No, it's not all fake outrage, and I feel like if you can do that, you can maybe contribute to the positive, if that makes sense. When you make a positive change, such as what I just mentioned, where if the internet didn't collectively get together and slap Microsoft in the face and say, hell no, you're not doubling the price. Just like when we talk about Spartacus, we got that, the rumor, well, it's not a rumor, but we got some info from Jeff Grubb where he was talking about the pricing, and he said that might not be the same, but he said that for PlayStation Plus as we currently know it, it could potentially be, well, it is probably going to be $10 a month, but that's what it is now. It's $10 a month. But a lot of people were under the assumption that, oh, Sony's now going to charge $120 a year for just basic PlayStation Plus. I mean, there's a 99.9% chance, no, they're not going to. But what if they did? What if that's what Sony tried to do, something like that? You're just going to say, well, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's not that big of a deal. Just don't. There comes a time where you got to speak up, I mean, maybe not the best comparison, but I just want to make it clear that I'm pretty sure I'm 99.9% sure that PlayStation Plus, as we know it, will remain $60 a year. All right, just want to make that clear. Rari 2X, you're saying MBG. I already explained why GT7 is online only. The past titles had cheaters offline carrying to online. Most PS players are online anyway. I mean, I get that too, man, but like, it's just from what I can tell, most players, and I mean I say the word most based off of most players who are talking about the game online are not happy with this, you know, and I can see both points of view, but I don't know, man. I just feel like if enough people, what we just saw with the servers being down for 24 hours. I think that's proof enough that, you know, maybe, yeah, there's going to be some cheaters. There's going to be people carrying their stuff from offline to online. But I mean, come on, you know. but I understand that side of it as well. Like what I mean to say is I can understand the rationalization behind, well, this is why it needs to be online only. And I'm not going to say like you're an insane person if you think that's okay. Like, no, it makes sense. Steady flow. Again, you're saying GT7 devs made it more expensive to buy the credits to scare people away from the MTX and earn the cars by playing the game. Bro, you are doubling down, Steady flow. You are. I respect it. You're doubling down. You're like, no, man, no. They want you to play. They made the microtransactions more expensive so you won't buy them. Okay, I mean. You know, I will. All right, Steady Flow. I'll give you this. It would be quite the story if we found out that there was a mandate from the executives up top. All right, from the executives up top, where they're like, GT7 is our best selling franchise, and dude, when I see this is what confuses me. This is what you're. Steady flow. I love this only because you're implying that there is like some internal shit going on right now. Some Polyphony Digital's gone rogue. They wanted to turn against the overlords at Sony and turn the public perception against them. I mean, what's interesting to me is when I look at Polyphony Digital, like I watched a video, I think it was like 2 months ago, where it was the history of Gran Turismo, and I learned all about Kazunori Yamauchi and his team, and he's been there since the beginning. And the thing that's interesting to me about GT is, dude, I'm not a car person and I'm not a GT player, but even I can tell, like, this is a passion game. This is a passionate game. This is a passionate product. Like, the people who are making this game really love cars, man. And I have no doubt that, you know, Kazunori Yamauchi, as well as every developer at Polyphony Digital, they want to find success critically, but financially as well. Who doesn't want to find financial success realistically? But this is where, when I talked at the very beginning of this topic, why I don't know who's making these decisions. And I just feel so confused because I'm like, is this really Kazunori Yamauchi? Like, is this the creator of GT7? Like, I feel like he doesn't give a shit. I could be wrong, man. Sorry, I know you guys are saying I'm beating a dead horse. I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna continue. Don't worry. I have to just say this last thing, just because it leaves it, I think, in a good spot. I get the feeling, and this feeling could be wrong, but I get the feeling that Kazunori Yamauchi nor Polyphony Digital give a flying fuck about how much microtransaction revenue they're making. Like, I feel like maybe they care a little bit, but I don't. I just have a difficult time believing that Kaz and his team, the creators and developers of GT, are the ones who are being greedy here. I have a hard time believing that, man, because you're talking about developers and a studio that was there from the beginning where, you know, hey, there were no microtransactions. They didn't even exist. You're saying bonuses, and I know this is where it's tough because it's like, well, who's the greedy one here? Is it Jim Ryan? Is it the evil executives up top at Sony? Are they the greedy ones, or are the developers greedy? Are we being too easy on the developers? I'm not, I know you're saying who doesn't want more money. I get that too, but it's like, I guess my only thing here is how could anybody who made this decision not see that it's like, this is just going to come off as greedy and people are not going to like it. I feel like the higher up executives at Sony are willing to take that risk, just like they took that risk multiple times already. I don't know. It is what it is. We'll find out soon enough. Guys. In the end, it doesn't matter. All that matters is that they correct this shit and do what they got to do, the right thing. That's what matters to me. But steady flow, that is interesting. That's like some really kind of like covert, like, internal not black ops, but just I can't think of the right word, but something a cold civil war within PlayStation. There we go. That's what we'll call it. Fabrice, you're saying the fact that Microsoft is buys Minecraft for $2.5 billion and Sony buys Bungie for $3.6 billion, it makes me smile. It is ironic, actually, when you compare those two. JDTV, a member for 11 months. Thank you, buddy. You're saying the fact that still no one has the trophy, 3 legendary cars in GT7 speaks for itself. Those 3 cars can cost up to 20 million credits. And what does Sony do? They want you to buy the trophy. Yeah, dude, I saw you mention that on Twitter, man. That's so weird to me. I don't know if there's more to that, but that does not sound good. I heard a couple people say that some of the trophies in GT7 are currently broken, which is also concerning. I don't know, man. Cade Forever, you're saying, just wanted to ask, did you read the full article from VGC on the initiative? It sounded more so of an issue with Daryl Gallagher than Xbox. Xbox still has blame for this, but you put it all on them. Yeah, and I think that this is an appropriate thing for you to be asking right now, considering we just talked about Polyphony Digital and Sony, and one of the biggest questions I have is it the studio's fault? Is it the publisher's fault? And I'm going to dive deeper into that. That's actually the next topic, talking about the initiative, so I'll elaborate more on that in a minute. iSiler18, you're saying the gear and weapon system for God of War Ragnarok will be based on microtransactions, confirmed with proof. I hope that I hope that's not true. My God, could you imagine that? Now let me ask you guys this: if Sony were to pull some shit like that, how are you going to feel then? Because I'll tell you what I'll be doing. I'll be coming out here making videos constantly, being like, Sony, what are you doing? Unacceptable. Unacceptable. God, I hope that's a joke, bro. Steady Flow, thank you for the 20, man. You're saying, MBG, you good, my guy. The start of the PS5 generation, it was understandable why PlayStation was charging an extra $10 for the DualSense features. Nintendo Switch has haptic feedback, and none of the devs are using it in their games. I will say, Steady Flow, that is also another interesting point, because I remember like people were some people were freaking out, but people were saying like, that's bullshit. We shouldn't have to pay $10 for what really just seems to come down to mainly like, adding in DualSense features. But when I think about it, man, like most developers have been using the DualSense. Like it's an expectation. And if that's what the extra $10 comes down to, then yeah, I will say, as an advocate for the DualSense, it's worth it, because if that's what's making it so they're not neglecting it and ignoring it. But I will also point this out. There are also many other features that came equipped, or I guess you could say their day one with the PS5, and even features that have been added on, like trophy tracking, which I paid $500 for the PS5, and most of these devs ain't doing shit. They're not doing shit with those features. Like some devs have, but like the cars, all the help feature and whatnot, so I got to consider that as well. But I do get what you're saying, man. I do get what you're saying. Basically, what I'm trying to say is, yeah, I'd pay $10 extra for some DualSense support. Jacob, You're saying, I love Halo, but my main concern is that Chief shows his face in the upcoming show because the show creators say we didn't play or talk about Halo. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I heard about that, and look, I'm not a Halo fan. You guys know this. I'm not a Halo fan. But to me, it even as somebody who's not a Halo fan, it's pretty weird that they're going to show his face just like that on the show. I don't know how Halo fans feel about that. To me, that's a little strange. It's a little off-putting. So, a little off-putting. But yeah, that's pretty weird, man. Let me see. JH, you're saying it's not the developers. Look at their history. My guy, Polyphony, created Gran Turismo with the budget of another game, hiding it from Sony. He loves GT. Yeah, that's what I mean, man. We're gonna see Tom Holland as Master Chief, yeah. JH, see that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't like. I swear this is the final point I have to say. I swear this is the final one, and I'm gonna move on to the next topic. But I gotta say this, and I'm also asking you guys this question. I want you guys to answer this. And if you're somebody who's listening, well, after the fact, after it's live, please let me know. When I talked earlier about how it seems like ever since Jim Ryan took over, they've been pushing the envelope. Dude, it has felt like PlayStation Civil War. That's what it's felt like. I sincerely feel like ever since the transition from the PS4 generation to the PS5 and we saw Sean Layden, he's out. And it's clear he got kicked out, man. It's clear there was a power struggle. There was an internal civil war. Sean Layden lost. And Jim Ryan took over. Dude, I swear, man, I've had more, like, there has been more conversation about, well, is Sony doing the right thing here? Are they doing the wrong thing? What's going on here? There's been more about that. More strife within the PlayStation community itself than outside of it. And that to me is bizarre. And I get this feeling that this is Jim Ryan's doing, man. I'm telling you, like, I feel like he's just out here being like, we're just going to shake shit up. We're just going to shake shit up. And the core fan base is like all over the place, not with everything, but with a lot of things. There's just been so much crazy shit that's happened. And I remember all throughout last year, all throughout 2021, man, I look back and I'm like, there were just so many weeks where it's like, what's the bad news for PlayStation this week? Days Gone canceled, or Days Gone 2 canceled? Gotcha. Sony Bend on fire? Oh, okay. What's that? MLB The Show? Day one on Game Pass? Oh, I see. It's just like every week there was something else. And I don't know, man. I'm not saying Jim Ryan's got to go. I'm not. Because I got to give him more time. He's been doing good things too. It's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. We will see. The generation is long, and we're still very, very early in the generation. All right. Jim versus Phil. Who you got, MVG? Yeah. That would be an interesting one. All right. Timothy, you're saying a recent article revealed that the creators of the Halo series didn't play the games and don't know much about the lore. What? How is that even possible, bro? Timothy, how is that even possible? I don't know what you're talking about. Before I move on to the initiative, somebody was suggesting that I check out the Gaming Leaks and Rumors Reddit, which I normally check every day. I didn't check it. Here we go. Rumor from Seaworthiness Front 89. Unity has a GDC session for PSVR 2 development on Thursday, related to previous rumor event on Tuesday. So, yeah, I've seen quite a few people mentioning how apparently Sony has like another, like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I gotta set this straight here. All right. I don't think I'm going to call it a Sony event or a PlayStation event. I think I'm going to retire that for now, because every time I believe it's an event, it's not an event. It's not a showcase. It's a state of play. So I'm just going to assume that anytime we're hearing about a rumor of an event or whatever, I'm just going to assume it's a state of play. I'm just going to play it safe. But I've seen quite a few people expecting Sony to do something this week on Tuesday or Thursday relating to PSVR 2. And I mean, if you would have told me 2 weeks ago that, hey, Sony's going to have a state of play 20 minutes this week, and then next week they're going to have one just for Hogwarts, I would have been like, that's not true. That's made up, because Sony's never done anything like that before. And then they did it. More proof we cannot predict shit when it comes to Sony. But, you know, so, you know, if you were to ask me, MBG, what do you think? What I think, anything's possible. Sony could do something next week. They could do literally nothing next week. I believe I have the same amount of faith in both. But let me read this. This is from Reset Era. Unity is holding a GDC session on how to make VR games specifically for PlayStation VR 2, with it being specific to this headset. Then I imagine they will talk more about things like eye tracking, foveated rendering, and maybe things like haptics. However, I feel like if Unity is going to show tech demos or talk about technical details we are not yet familiar with only to devs who sign up to the session, then going by Sony's previous approach of avoiding leaks and holding their Road to PS5 video during the canceled GDC in 2020, wouldn't it make sense that they will do more? They will do a more open and general talk ahead of that. Maybe the rumored list from a few days ago that had a PSVR 2 event dated for March 22nd was right, and this Unity presentation is meant to be a follow-up. So, okay, so I will say, that is true. There is truth to that. There is truth to that. Sony doesn't like leaks, and when they have stuff like this where a bunch of developers have to sign NDAs for like hardware, Sony, and it's not just Sony, a lot of companies will do this. They might want to try to get ahead. They want to get ahead of the potential leaks. So, do I think that makes it more likely? I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm kind of surprised that Sony hasn't already talked more about PSVR 2. I really did expect them to do something just dedicated to PSVR 2. So, look, all I'm saying is that if Sony were to come out next week and be like, hey, we want to show you something regarding PSVR 2, I don't know that it's going to be like a big thing when they do it, but I wouldn't be that shocked. It'd be like, yeah, it feels about right. You know, it feels about right. But again, it's like we got to be really careful because we've been burned over and over again with certain things. Some things have been correct, but other things have just been like, nope, you know? Oh, excuse me. I'm just going to go back here and check to see. Here's a really interesting one. Remedy Entertainment is rumored to be developing a AAA Doctor Strange game for current gen. What would you guys think about that? That sounds pretty sick to me. I think Remedy would be the perfect developer for a game like that. But that's pretty much it. There's a bunch of like Xbox related stuff. I got a couple super chats here. Okay, Kapapa, you're saying, I agree with your comment about Jim Ryan. Sean and Shuhei back, please. I mean, there's no doubt that there are some stark differences. Excuse me, I apologize. I don't mean to make those sounds into the mic. Just got a little bit of a post-nasal drip here. I do a little bit of stretching. Sometimes I don't realize how long I'm sitting here, like how many hours straight. By the way, guys, we have over 700 people here hanging out, which is not too bad at all, considering how slow the week was. Do me a favor, please hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 500 likes. D-Doc, you're saying Jim has changed. We used to be best friends. I'm talking sleepovers and pillow fights. Now he won't return my calls. And now this with GT7? What happened to you, Jimmy boy? Honestly, I feel like Jim Ryan was really kind of not very prominent during the most generations, you know? But apparently, I mean, he did good work for Sony, man. He really did some serious work in Europe, and Sony really liked that. So he knows what he's doing. Like, he knows what he's doing. But I just feel like Jim Ryan is very bullish about testing the waters and seeing how much can we get away with. Timothy, you're saying they're taking, quote, creative liberties, end quote, with the show, and journos are throwing out words like alternate timeline. That's pretty weird. Yeah, I feel like that, I feel like anything revolving around a live action video game adaptation, I feel like the chances of it just being horrendous, the chances of that happen, like, yeah, I think it's pretty high. Steph, you're saying a heads up, the March 22nd dude that originally posted that confirmed that is fake, and other things. I can't wait for Ghostwire. Okay, yeah, to be honest, I didn't even catch that. I don't know what people were talking about March 22nd. That, to me, that sounds too soon for Sony to do something. I mean, if Sony comes out with like a blog post next week talking about PSVR 2, or maybe they show a trailer for like Horizon Call of the Mountain, that wouldn't be shocking. But yeah, I didn't even hear anything about that. I'm looking forward to Ghostwire as well. Not going to be able to play it day one, but definitely looking forward to it. Terrence Williams, you're saying the floating hands in VR takes me out of it. Yeah. I have never tried VR. I'm excited to try PSVR 2. It's going to be interesting. For sure. It'll be an interesting first experience. KD, you're saying, what's up, MBG? Did you catch how they were playing Ghost of Tsushima in the background in one of the shots in the 3rd episode of the Kanye doc, Genius? I did not. I can confirm that I did not see that, but that is pretty cool, man. A little bit of exposure for Ghost of Tsushima, for sure. So thank you for that, Katie. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next topic. This next topic is an Xbox topic, and we're talking about some of the issues that Xbox is having with their new studio that they built from the ground up, that being the Initiative. So I want to also give a little bit of context with this as well. When it comes to the Initiative, when that was first announced, this studio was announced in 2018. And this studio was very exciting because Microsoft and Phil Spencer made it clear that, like, hey, this is going to be a big studio and we're building it from the ground up and we're tasking them with making some of the biggest and most exciting and best games. And I loved the ambition. And the thing I loved most about it was it felt like Microsoft's direct answer to what I was asking for. The only thing that was disappointing is, well, it's going to take a long time. But what I was asking for, I'm sure many of you remember this, I was like looking at the games and playing the games that Sony was releasing. I'm like, yo, these are amazing. And I'm like, why can't Xbox make a game kind of like this? Right? And when I heard that that's kind of what this studio was tasked with, I mean, in one of their job descriptions, they called themselves a quadruple A studio or whatever. And it look, I know that they never said like, hey, we're trying to make games like Naughty Dog. We're trying to make games like Sony Santa Monica Studio and whatnot. They never said that, but that was the sentiment around the studio, and they leaned into that. Xbox and Microsoft and even fans leaned into that. And it's understandable why they would, because like, why wouldn't you want that? But like most things, unfortunately, regarding Xbox, it doesn't seem to be working out that way. So for those who are unaware, there was a big write-up by VGC, okay? And this write-up essentially confirmed that most of the talent and most of the higher up, developers at the Initiative ended up leaving. And I just want it to be known that there were quite a few Xbox fans, toxic Xbox fans at that were constantly throwing job openings or new hires in my face. I was like, oh, this dude worked on God of War, and look, they're taking all of Sony's talent, right? And I was like, okay, well, I guess, yeah, that makes sense. If they want to compete with games like God of War and Naughty Dog games, they're going to have to get some of that talent. So I was like, okay, makes sense. Well, they're all gone. They're all gone. Daryl Gallagher is from Crystal Dynamics. He is responsible for the reboot of Tomb Raider, which was successful. And he's the head of the studio. And so what ended up, it sounds to me, based off of reading that article, it sounds like there was some clashing going on, okay? There was some internal clashing between these developers, between Daryl Gallagher and a lot of the higher-up team members. And Microsoft, and this was what's interesting to me, Microsoft, when it comes to the initiative, was apparently completely hands-off. Like, they're just like, yo, you do your thing. We'll give you the money. You do your thing. And I think there's benefits to that, but this is where we can also see maybe the cons of doing something like that, where it's like, if you're completely hands-off and you have issues like this arising, then you can't really do anything about it because you let it happen. You know what I mean? You didn't give them any guidance or any structure. You let them create their own structure, and now it's working against them. So I'm going to be honest. When I found out, I think it was like in 2020, the Game Awards, I think, that they weren't working on a new IP. They're working on a Perfect Dark reboot. I was like, to me, that's a massive missed opportunity. Like, I know you're a new studio, but that's the best part about it is you can do literally anything. Literally anything. The sky's the limit. And instead, they choose to reboot Perfect Dark. I'm like, oh, okay, well, Perfect Dark, it's not a franchise I'm familiar with. I haven't played any of them. I hear it's stealth-oriented. And I'm like, okay, so there's still hope. This could be awesome. You know, this could be my way of getting introduced to Perfect Dark. And, and to me, this speaks to a problem with Microsoft that Sony just simply doesn't suffer from. And a lot of people were upset that I made a video talking about this. And they were a lot of Xbox fans were pointing out, like, back in 2019, how Naughty Dog, there was like a report from Bloomberg and Jason Schreier where Naughty Dog lost like 70% of its staff, not higher ups and not higher up developers, but like there's like way too much turnover, too much crunch. And yeah, that was a problem. Like, that was the problem. And since that report, as far as I'm aware, Naughty Dog and Sony put a lot of work into making it not that way anymore. But I think people are just sad and desperate. Like, people who are, Xbox Defense Force, they don't want to see that this is what's happening because it's not good. It doesn't mean the final product of Perfect Dark, which at this point, it looks like it's going to be still many years before we get it. It does not mean it can't be good. It doesn't mean it won't be good. It doesn't mean it won't be great. But what we are seeing now is not good. It's not good. And it's not the same as what we heard about Naughty Dog. And people who are trying to draw those comparisons, they need to stop because they're two very different things. I'm not saying that what Naughty Dog was going through then was good. It wasn't. That was bad, just like this is bad. But these are bad for different reasons. What's happening with the initiative is worse because they completely lost their team. Crystal Dynamics is now making Perfect Dark for Microsoft. The initiative, to me, is kind of just a shell studio. It's a shell studio because you have Daryl Gallagher, the former head of Crystal Dynamics, hiring Crystal Dynamics to make a game under the name The Initiative. It's a shell studio. And I think that's sad because I feel like Microsoft really, truly had an opportunity and they really just, I think, let it slip through their fingers where, let me ask you guys, like, is this, I mean this, I'm being serious when I say this. I'm not trying to be a fanboy and I'm not trying to be a dick, but is this not par for the course when it comes to Microsoft Studios? Putting the Bethesda acquisition aside, putting the Activision acquisition aside, putting the acquisition of studios like Playground Games and Ninja Theory aside, is this not par for the fucking course for Xbox? And that's what I want Xbox fans to think about, Because just like I'm over here saying, Sony, the fuck is going on with GT7 over there? I'm going to look at Microsoft and say, the fuck is going on with the initiative? Because this is crazy to me. Like, I guess it's not crazy. I don't mean to make it, it's so disappointing where it's like, they finally did, like, they're trying to do it. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, Xbox. You're trying to make a studio that can make games that can go head to head with some of Sony's games. And this is how it turns out. This is how it turns out. Suddenly, it begins to make sense why Microsoft is buying publishers, why Microsoft bought not just one studio, not two studios, but all of Bethesda, because Bethesda seems to have some competence when it comes to studio management and new game development, right? Activision, but even then, Bethesda's had their issues, although it seems like they've improved a lot and they've had some good games. Activision, I mean, look, putting Activision's practice, Activision has a shit ton of issues, man. They have a shit ton of issues, and they're seemingly not gonna go away overnight. That's a fact. But putting those issues aside, you gotta at least give Activision credit that, I mean, it takes a certain type of ability to release a AAA Call of Duty game every single year for 20 years and not miss a beat. That's not easy to do. But clearly, it comes at a price. Clearly. Darren says, MBG misread the shit out of that article. The studio is in a good spot. People left due to creative differences, nothing more. I just want it to be known, man, that one of the last rumors we heard about Perfect Dark was they want to make it a service game. Look, if you want to be glass half full with this, you go right ahead. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell, but what baffles me is how anybody can see a report like this come out of Xbox and Microsoft after seeing the track record of Xbox and believe that everything's swell. Like, what? How? Because I will remind you that even though Naughty Dog, they had a bad report in 2019 and it wasn't looking very good. See, Sebastian, you're saying 60% of Naughty Dog left just before The Last of Us 2 came out, and I didn't hear any of you guys screaming about that. Actually, I will remind you, there were a lot of PlayStation fans that were like, what's going on at Naughty Dog? And Naughty Dog addressed it. And Naughty Dog also released a game that got 10 out of 10s across the board. Putting personal feelings aside, The Last of Us Part 2, one game of the year. You think you're going to fucking get that from Xbox? Maybe, but they have yet to prove that. This is what I'm saying. Like, I just don't understand how people can be so confident in a publisher that has not proven anything. Anything. Oh, they didn't completely fuck up Halo Infinite? Congratulations. That's the least you could have done. Oh, Forza Horizon 5 is great because you have one studio that you bought that's actually fucking good? Congratulations. Gears was pretty good? Cool. Didn't expect it to be any other way. Outside of that, well, what about Microsoft Flight Simulator? Okay. It's a big W, I guess. Well, what about Psychonauts 2? Come on. Psychonauts 2 was already well into development. Yes, Microsoft helped. I get that. I understand. But, I mean, we're just going to pretend that Microsoft didn't just buy that studio and make that game theirs? Just, mid-development? I mean, yeah, they made it better, and that's good. I'm glad. And that goes to show, well, hey, Microsoft's money's good for something. See, this is what I need. I need somebody to explain it. I'm serious. Like I see somebody in chat saying, dude, you're going full blind fanboy again. I need to know what Microsoft has done to prove that they are good at making video games. Like, I mean, actually really good. I need to know. I need to know. People want me to give credit for something that was already established. People want me to celebrate the fact that Xbox didn't almost completely fuck Halo up. How am I supposed to celebrate that fact? Where's Fable? I'm interested to see Fable. I have a ton of confidence in Fable because Playground Games is making that. I'm just saying, man, like, you know, I'm baffled. That's all it is. I'm just baffled and I'm confused. I'm just confused as to how can you read a report like what we're reading with the initiative and just assume everything's going fine over there? Like, they just literally said that the game probably has to be rebooted now. Like, what? And people were like, well, wasn't God of War 2018 kind of rebooted? And it's like, they were working on a new IP and it wasn't going well. And then they decided to go work on God of War and they decided to take God of War in a different direction. So yes, at that time with Sony Santa Monica, very concerning. Very concerning. Like, yeah, dude, they were on the ropes and they had to sink or swim. And luckily they got it together and they swam, you know? Let me see. Spacey, you're saying it never made sense to me with all that talent. Remake Perfect Dark and make it an FPS. I forgot about that. Did they confirm that it was going to be an FPS? Sheesh. All that talent was clearly intended for a third-person action adventure. Did they? Dude, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, that's bizarre. I agree with you. Magnum Visuals, you're saying, I don't think single-player AAA games work with Game Pass. If they just focus on service games for Game Pass, they won't have these problems, and there's a market. Well, I will put it to you this way. To me, Game Pass definitely makes it, there's more incentive, I think, with a service like Game Pass to try to make your game somewhat of a service. Like, there's just more incentive there, you know? I don't blame devs for seeing that incentive and wanting to do something with it. Rashdan B2, you're saying that's why they buy. It's hard to build a AAA studio. I know that, and I want to make it clear that I give Microsoft a shit ton of credit for trying here, but I don't get it, man. Like, why is it this hard for Xbox to make a game that, to me, is like, okay, there you go. You got your God of War 2018, not a copy and paste of it. I just mean like a game that's just, you have your Naughty Dog Xbox game. You have your Santa Monica Xbox game. Like, why can't it be done, man? They have all this fucking money. They have all these resources. And it's like, what are you doing? And I know people are like, you just want to shit on Xbox. Dude, I am disappointed. I wanted this more than anything Xbox was doing to work. And I'm still going to hold out hope. It's not looking good for the initiative, but I'm going to hold out hope, man. Because you know what? I will say, Daryl Gallagher, he did reboot Tomb Raider, and that reboot was awesome. So if he can work his magic again with Crystal Dynamics for Perfect Dark, we could get something amazing. What's going on with Corey Barlog's Twitter account? I have no idea. Let me see. Mike, you're saying, slow down MBG. LOL, the initiative was never going to make a big AAA game with just 50 to 70 people. They were going to need a support studio regardless. That's true. That's true. And that's the thing. Like, I remember when we first heard that Crystal Dynamics was being brought on to help, I was like, okay, that's definitely not normal, but people were saying that. They're like, dude, relax. They're going to need this to make their game bigger. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it went from, even then, people were trying to tell me, like, this is not that bad, man. It's fine. And I'm like, okay, all right. Yeah, maybe you're right. They need more support. Now it's just Crystal Dynamics. So, I don't know. How big is Crystal Dynamics, by the way? Surely they're bigger than 50 to 70 people. Uh, Rashtambi 2, this is different. Microsoft was hands-off with the situation compared to other studios. They mismanaged hands-on. Damned if you do and damned if you don't. Yeah, and again, that's why I don't want to. I know I'm being really hard on Xbox. I'm just expressing my frustration with Xbox. That's all. But truthfully speaking, yes, I think it's good that they've embraced this approach where let's be more hands-off. But I do think that maybe they're going too far in the other direction where it's well, first you're too hands-on, and now you're being way too hands-off. Try to find that good middle ground where it's I think a studio and talent, they need a little bit of guidance. They need a producer. You know what I mean? They need to have something there to create more of a structure, I think, but not something that's so rigid and so constricting that they can't allow their creativity to flourish, right? And in this case, I guess we're just seeing what happens when maybe there's, like you said, when you're too hands-off. It can also produce some not so good results. Salary 18, you're saying track record, Scalebound, Crackdown 3, Halo Master Chief Collection, Halo Infinite is nearly dead, and now Perfect Dark. Definitely an issue with studio management. That's what I'm saying, man. So I'm saying, putting review scores aside, we can't ignore this, the way this stuff has went down. Xbox finally has one good year, and half of that year, I mean, look, I'm not trying to take 2021 away from people. That's fine. But I still am waiting, man. That's all. I will say though, I do have more confidence in Xbox than I have before. I know that people might find that hard to believe. I do, but I don't know. It just seems like it's really going to be tough. It's really going to be a long haul for Microsoft to really. Because one thing that people have told me before, they're like, well, Sony has been working, where Sony got to with the PS4 generation and where they are now with the PS5, they've been working at that for a couple decades. And it took a lot of ups and downs. And Sony's had their own downs. Dude, there were times with Sony where there were people ranting about Sony and the exact same problem for them, there was a time when that was a thing. My eye itches for some reason, really badly. Sorry, it's a little obnoxious, but it's just Microsoft's been in the game for a long time, man, a long time. Salary 18, you're saying track record. I read that. Sorry. JH, you're saying Psychonauts 2 was funded by the public, not Xbox. So that's something to keep in mind as well. It's true. Magnum Visuals, you're saying, as an artist, when you agree to a project and then they start to change direction, you just want to quit. Working conditions are more valuable than money because the money you will get regardless. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how it ends. Well, it didn't end, but I just don't know how it comes down to this. I put out a tweet where I said, just to make it clear why I'm disappointed, we went from the initiative being a potentially quadruple A studio, which I know it wasn't a real thing, that was going to make big games to compete with studios like Naughty Dog and Sony Santa Monica. They went from that to now it's essentially Crystal Dynamics rebooting Perfect Dark. And I'm like, those are two very different things, Space D, you're saying 2021 highest reviewed and best publisher. I get it, man. I get it, but come on. They have a year where, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think maybe Xbox will show something. I think Xbox could flex hard this year. Look, all right, I'm just going to say, I think Xbox could flex pretty damn hard this year, and they could really prove something. Maybe. I guess it depends on how you view it. But when Starfield, come on, everybody's talking about Starfield. Are we really going to sit here and pretend that if Starfield releases and it gets a 93 on Metacritic or something, or a 94, we're all in agreement that like that wasn't Xbox's doing, right? Like we can confidently agree with that, right? Because to me, this is why, like, I'm trying to express to people that the initiative was supposed to be Xbox, not Bethesda, not Activision, Xbox. You know? And that to me was like, that's what made it so cool. Because it's like, holy shit, like, we're going to see what Xbox can really do here. Say this dude tripping over one studio. You do understand Microsoft owns like 50 studios. Yeah, but see, that's the problem is the majority of those studios are not like whatever, man. It's hard to get into this conversation because if I say, well, Xbox is buying their stuff, you get these people that are gonna come out, well, Sony bought Naughty Dog and Sony bought Sucker Punch. Like, okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that Sony buying a diamond in the rough that is Naughty Dog way back when and molding them into the studio they are today is a far cry from a $1 trillion corporation buying an entire publisher that's already been molded into what they are today. That's all I'm saying, man. Like there are differences here, and this is why I'm not. Look, I think people misinterpret. Just because I am confused and don't understand the hype, and I don't understand, you know, why people are so willing to be like, Xbox is great, man. Even though this is a pretty damning report, things are fine. Just because I'm confused by it and don't understand it, I'm not saying you have to agree with me. I'm not saying you have to feel the way I feel. And if you're somebody who's still optimistic, then by all means be optimistic. I'm not trying to bring you down. But I just got to express my frustration with this here because, you know, I remember way back when, guys, I don't know for everybody who's here right now, I don't know if there's anybody here in the chat that remembers. I had my video years ago when Crackdown, or not Crackdown, I know you guys remember that one, when Scalebound was canceled. Oh man, I made a video on that. And at that time, I was like supporting Xbox. I'm like, they're going to get it together, man. I believe in them. And I saw that and I'm like, no fucking way. I was like, no way. I can't. Yeah, Tunic, okay, yeah. Apparently Tunic is a great game. I always thought that kind of looked good. And I was surprised because like people were telling me, I remember a week or two ago, I was like, what does Xbox have coming out? I don't think they have anything. And people were like, no, dude, they got Tunic. And I was like, is that coming out? And then they like just kind of shadow dropped it into Game Pass. And apparently it's like a really great game. And I'm like, good for them, man. Good. I will say, like, Xbox is getting better at finding these games that, while they're not the biggest games, they're good games. And I will give them credit for that, for sure. But, you know, I don't know. I just feel like in the AAA space, Xbox has not been able to do it, man. And I just can't be the person that's like, hey, go Xbox, buying Bethesda and Activision. Yeah, you did it. You did it. Like I can't be excited about that. Like you're buying things that have already been created. You're buying your way to victory. And I can't get behind that. And I get it. Like when you're struggling as much as you are and you need to remain competitive, sometimes you have no choice. And I want it to be known that I know I'm being really harsh on Xbox right now in their studios, but quite a few Xbox fans turn to me and they're like, you're going to cry, MBG, because, hey, you know, you said you wanted competition, you know? And it's like, well, no, I guess no, I can't cry about it. I can't, I guess you're right. I can't be upset when Microsoft is like buying a publisher or two and, you know, all those studios and games now belong to them and they're buying their way to this competition. Yeah, I guess I just guess I didn't realize when I was saying, come on, Xbox, you got to compete. I didn't realize that was a viable option and that was the one that they were going to choose. That's all. It just feels kind of hollow. That's the best way I can put it. It just feels kind of hollow. I I want to be able to share the excitement that Xbox fans have for the platform, but I can't do it because I'm just not seeing it, and I'm not feeling it, and I'm not identifying it. And it gets frustrating because I see people celebrating it so much. I'm like, but I don't get it. Like, what's so great? And when I see people get on my case because I'm expressing my disappointment that one of the only major studios that Microsoft has, that I was like, I think this is going to be it for them. They can do something really good here. I get upset and people are like, stop shooting on them. Everything's fine. It's like, oh, okay. It'll all be good, guys. It'll all be good. You're saying, well, Jay, you're saying they tried building a studio too, but you're dumping on them for it. No, look, I'm not dumping. I want to make something clear. I'm not trying to dump on Xbox for building the studio. I will give credit where credit is due. I think Xbox did the right thing, and I was very happy to see them do it. And I give them all the credit in the world for investing a lot of money into building a new AAA studio from the ground up. That is not easy. Even Sony, as of right now, is not doing that. So I absolutely give Microsoft the credit. And I understand that it's very, very hard. And maybe, I will admit, maybe my expectations were too high, because I guess realistically speaking, it's like, well, they are building a brand new team. They're being tasked to make a really big game, and they're not proven, and things could go wrong. So it's like the idea that it might not work out the way I'm imagining in my head. Yeah, I guess maybe my expectations were a little unfair, but I don't know. I guess I really believed like this could be the one, Like I kind of imagine the Initiative as a pillar studio. You know how like when you look at Xbox studios, there's Halo and 343, there's Gears and the Coalition, there's Turn 10 and Forza, and now Playground Games with Forza Horizon. I thought, dude, the Initiative can be like the new pillar internal Microsoft studio that could make a game that really brings me back to Xbox. And maybe they still can. Maybe they still can. Not all hope is lost. Steady Flow again, you're saying, mind you, most of those workers left Naughty Dog, were contract workers, not directors like in the Initiative and 343. No comparison. Xbox is down bad. I mean, that's why I was trying to say, like, I know people keep bringing up that old Naughty Dog report, but I don't think that's the same. I don't think that's the same. I forgot. I see somebody mention Compulsion Games. I actually completely forgot that they were owned by Microsoft. I would be interested to see what they do. Zay Very Rare is saying, what's up, MBG? I hope your afternoon is going well so far. Well, thank you, man. It is. For future podcasts, how about showing your own pre-recorded gameplay plus face cam? All love. I've thought about that. It's really, really difficult to manage that, mainly because I do content every day, and prepping for the podcast already takes a significant chunk of time, and it would, to me, it feels like it'd be a little bit overkill. I'm not saying it's not a possibility in the future, but anytime I've tried to do something like that, it would just turn into too much. I'd get stressed out playing games, trying to capture the footage and whatnot, and you know what I mean? It becomes a bit much. But we'll see what the future holds. We'll see. But thank you for that. Fabrice, Paul, thank you. You're saying Microsoft is a $2.5 trillion company. They care more about their reputation than most of the company. Xbox needs to be the good guy because they are the only face of Microsoft for the public. That's why they don't crunch. Well, I think the most telling thing about what you're saying here is that, Microsoft is a $2 trillion company, and Xbox is a drop in the bucket, man. Xbox is a drop in the bucket. And I feel like there could be some truth to what you're saying, where it's like, I wouldn't like this at all. I wouldn't like it, but I would actually understand. Like, I would be able to understand if Microsoft were to one day, they're like, you know what? We're just done. Like, we're just done trying to make these big AAA blockbuster games. We're just done. We're just going to make the games that we can make. I would understand, man, because there is some truth to what you're saying. I mean, they have Game Pass. They have the entire backing of Microsoft. They They know that Xbox, like you said, is the most forward-facing part, one of the most forward-facing parts of Microsoft. I could see that, and somebody says you think they're already there, and you're right. Maybe they are already there, man, and maybe that's my problem. Maybe my problem is I'm over here still thinking like, well, Microsoft is going to have that game, right? And it's like, well, I mean, maybe if Bethesda makes it, maybe if somebody else outside of Microsoft makes it, and I guess that's just why I don't know, man. I feel like I feel like seeing this report with the initiative just really kind of brought me back to like 2017, 2018 Microsoft, where I'm just like so fed up, where I'm like, how can you guys really not get it together? Pushing polygons, you're saying all games are iterative. It does take time to get a solid idea, but what is the end goal for your game? And does a Game Pass make it so they can get cash up front so they can continue development? It's a very, very good question you're posing there, Pushing polygons. And I think it's a fair one. Because, like, I mean, it is up to each development team to decide, like, what is their goal up front versus what is their long-term goal. And if their goal up front is, look, we want to make something that's sustainable over a long period of time, then yeah, I mean, I think Game Pass kind of makes sense for that. I do think so. Richard, you're saying outright games to PlayStation Studios. And pushing polygons again, you're saying it's a matter of quality control and faith from the top down. Phil to Matt Booty and Matt Booty to Bonnie Ross in the case of Halo. They need to manage a little harder and they need to hit their benchmarks. Yeah, I mean, I feel like one of the key differences between Sony and Microsoft is Sony, they come off to me like management-wise, like they do have less tolerance for certain things. And I think that Sony's management has an expectation where it will be a serious problem and there will potentially be consequences if that expectation is not met. And I know that to some people that sounds, well, that's not good. That doesn't sound like creative freedom. But I've talked about this before where it's like, when we talk about crunch, I talked about how believe it or not, it depends on like what type of crunch you're talking about. There is, I guess, what you could call what was once considered like good crunch, but nobody talks about that anymore because crunch is now just bunched up into everything revolving around crunch is now under one single banner where crunch, and it's deemed completely toxic. And I've talked before about how like, well, it depends on how you're looking at it and what exactly crunch is to you. If crunch is a passionate person wanting to strive for something more than maybe another person who, I don't want to say isn't as passionate, but maybe just isn't as willing to go the extra distance, it's one of these situations where it's like, well, what do you call that? I mean, yeah, you don't have to call it crunch. You could just call it passion. But I think sometimes what happens is people get into leadership roles and they have that intense passion and they just, they want to strive for something and they begin to create an environment where it's like everybody has to function this way because this is the only way we're going to get where we need to go. And that can be detrimental for sure. Like that can be detrimental. It can be detrimental physically, mentally, emotionally, but it can also, it's one of these things where it can be controlled and it can be managed correctly. I mean, let's be real here. Game developers are passionate people. Artists are passionate people. They want to achieve something that in their mind would be considered great. That's not easy to achieve. Anything worth having is not easy. So it requires a certain amount of blood, sweat, and tears. But I think that, and I'm not saying that Microsoft developers aren't passionate and that Microsoft developers don't put in the effort. I don't mean that. But it's a tough balance, really. You know, you talk about crunch, you talk about management, and you talk about passion, you talk about art, you talk about wanting to do something great. I usually try to keep things pretty simple in my frame of mind. And the way I see things is like this. If you want to achieve something above average, there is a price to be paid. Period. I've never seen a scenario in life, in the world that we live in, the reality that we exist in, I've never seen a scenario where somebody or a group of individuals were able to achieve something that would be considered well above average and not have to sacrifice quite significantly to get to it. And I've talked about this before, but the reason for that is because for every person that is not willing to make that sacrifice, well, yeah, you can't make born being rich. Yeah, but I don't think, see, that's the thing is this, do you count somebody who's inherited millions of dollars or billions of dollars getting an inheritance? Is that, would we consider that and quantify that as that's something, that's a great achievement? Not at all. That's not an achievement at all. That's just luck. You know what I mean? At least that's how I see it. I mean, if I was born into millions and millions of dollars, I wouldn't consider that a great achievement. I'd be proud of my family, of course. I'd be very proud of that, and I would consider that a great achievement, but I wouldn't consider my inheriting money an achievement. You know what I mean? But I guess what I'm trying to say here is that I just get this feeling that within Sony and within PlayStation Studios, there is that sense of we are working on not something just good, we are working on something great, and we are pushing for something great. And we are not going to be satisfied with just being okay or good. And I think that ever since Herman Holst and Jim Ryan, you know, it seems like ever since the reports came out that there was like some bad crunch over at Sony, I think they've definitely, you know, we've seen that. We have seen that where Sony said that the reason why they delayed Horizon, because they really wanted to get it out in 2021, was because they wanted to avoid severe crunch. And they make it so that, look, if you want to crunch on your own, like if you are somebody who's working at Guerrilla, you know, if you're somebody who's working at Guerrilla Games and you're seriously passionate about what you're doing and you want to stay like double overtime, you know, and really get your work done, if it, you know, in a greater capacity, you're free to do that. But that's not the expectation. But that's the thing is, okay, so maybe working overtime or even double overtime and really kind of pushing your limits that way. That's not the expectation. But does that mean that the expectation for Guerrilla as a studio with Horizon is any less? That, well, we expect something really great. At the minimum, we expect something really great with Horizon. I don't think that expectation goes anywhere. So maybe it's just a matter of time, you know, and that's where it's pretty crazy to me that I think it's pretty crazy that Xbox with the initiative, they've, I mean, and look, I know it wasn't easy and there's the pandemic and everything, but the fact that they have nothing to show except the CG trailer, I think that's absurd. I think that's absurd, and I frankly think that's unacceptable. And I think that that's where, when I look at Xbox's management, that to me, that's too lenient. I'm telling you right now, if I'm Phil Spencer, if I'm Matt Booty, and I'm like, you guys have had, they didn't have an unlimited amount of money, but millions and millions and millions of dollars dumped into the studio for talent, whatever. You guys don't even have a trailer of any kind, you know? You only have a CG trailer? I think that's crazy. Like, I don't know how that's acceptable, but apparently it is. It's whatever. But I think that, I just want to say, I think that's part of Microsoft's plan as well. I think Microsoft is planning to insulate their studios so much to blow up their studios and consume so many, where somebody actually in my chat, they said it, they're like, dude, who cares? It's just one studio. They have like 50 studios. I think that's the plan, is you have so many studios, you have so many game developers that it doesn't matter if like 3 studios are really dragging ass right now and being poorly managed. It doesn't matter because you got like all these other studios that are doing other stuff, you know? And I think in a way that can work in the end. I think it's a little bit chaotic, but that can work. You know, one studio helps out another. It definitely alleviates the pressure. That alleviates the pressure, but I guess it comes down to like maybe to an extent pressure can be a good thing and it can be a necessary thing when it comes to certain products, certain standards being met. But Kyrie Williams, sorry, you're saying, why are you getting frustrated and expressing an opinion over an Xbox topic when you're a PlayStation channel? You're acting as if Avowed and Hellblade and other AAA games aren't coming. I know they're coming. My frustration, believe it or not, it just stems from my old days with Xbox, where it's like, I know that I am a PlayStation-centered channel, and obviously I care much more about PlayStation at this point in time than I do Xbox, but I still do care about Xbox. I know people find that hard to believe, but I do. Like, I've seen how like people are talking about like there's some leaks for Redfall, and I've seen a couple leaked images, and I'm like, okay, all right. I mean, let's see what this ends up looking like. Maybe it might end up being something. I mean, we had that like CG trailer for Redfall. I'm gonna be honest, that didn't do a damn thing for me. I kind of cringed at it. I'm like, okay, but I saw like the first screenshot. It was really blurry. I'm gonna be honest, it looked kind of terrible, the quality. But I'm like, it looks kind of like it could be good. I'm getting like maybe a little bit of a Borderlands feel here, and so I don't know. You know, we saw the gameplay of Hellblade, and you're right. Like people assume that if I say I think that Hellblade gameplay looked good, but I feel like they could have showed a better portion of the game that showed a little bit more of it, where it's not just her running on rails. See, this is where Xbox fans get over defensive, and I guess they get over defensive towards me because I am a PlayStation creator. But it's like, I would be saying the same thing if that was a PlayStation game. I'd be saying, damn, that looked really good, but maybe Sony should have showed, like, God of War, Ragnarok. When we get that state of play, I don't expect to just see a 5-minute section of Ragnarok where it's just Kratos and Atreus on rails running from something and throwing spears. I don't. I expect a hell of a lot more than that, you know? And this is where I'm saying, like, people, they want to talk about, like, how great, oh man, dude, you know, Microsoft they got Ninja Theory, and Ninja Theory is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, Ninja Theory is good for sure. And people kind of want to inflate Ninja Theory and be like, well, now that Ninja Theory is under Microsoft and they got that budget, they're gonna be the studio that can do it. And I'm like, you're right, they probably could be. And I want to have that faith, but this is where they still have to prove it. Like, this is where I'm not trying to, I don't understand why that bothers people so much. This is where I'm trying to say, like, people get upset at me when I say, not Gears, well, Gears, it's been a while since we got Gears, but when I say, you know, people keep talking about 2021 with Xbox and they proved it. And I'm like, no, they didn't. Like, I don't know why people think that. They did not. You can be happy for Halo and happy for Forza, but let me ask you, when has Halo or Forza ever been bad? When has Halo or Forza ever truly crashed and burned? I mean, maybe the Master Chief Collection, but putting that aside, never. Because they were always going to be good because they have to be. It's already established. Psychonauts 2, Flight Simulator, you know? Again, Psychonauts 2, a game that was crowdfunded, a game that was already being made, not by Microsoft, helped by Microsoft, not made by Microsoft. I don't know. Again, my expectations are just too high, clearly. They're just Age of Empire. Okay, I'll give them that. Yeah, sure. That was a good one. So GT Sport was good. Dude, I don't know. I don't know, man. But I would. So you know what? I want to go to another topic here because I know. Look, there were Xbox fans in the chat cheering me on when I was ranting about Sony and going in hard on Sony. And now they're maybe not feeling so good because I'm going in hard on Xbox again. But I will say this. I have a article here that is more of a, I'll be a little bit more positive towards Xbox right now, okay? The article's from Gaming Bolt, and it says Microsoft is planning an E3 style show for June. So I want to read this because, yes, believe it or not, I am looking forward to Xbox's next showcase because you know what I want to see? Show me that State of Decay 3. Show me more of Hellblade. Show me the aspects of Hellblade that I want to see. Let's see what Redfall looks like. Let's see what Starfield looks like. It has the potential to be very good. Okay, so it's not all doom and gloom. All right, I know people get all upset because they're like, "You just shitting on Xbox." I still think Xbox is in a better position than they ever have been. I just still have my grievances. That's all. So it says here, Microsoft will be hosting a new ID at Xbox show on March 16th, but that's apparently just the beginning. Xbox era co-founder Nick Baker reported that showcases were planned for May and September. While a May showcase wouldn't be shocking, the infamous Xbox 2020 debuted in May 2020. It seemed that a proper E3 style show will be taking place in June. This is according to GamesBeat journalist Jeff Grubb, who fielded questions in a recent show with VentureBeat Mike Minotti. Regarding Xbox's showcase, Grubb responded that I'll probably have more to say on this soon, but it's in June, not May. Well, they might do something in May or September. I don't know, but I know that they're planning for an E3 style show in June. They're talking to partners to get big games in there. That's what's going on right now, and it's March, so it's not like they can change that train or turn that big ship around. They are heading in that direction, and they're going to do something in that time frame. VGC's Andy Robinson said that this matches what his own sources have shared. So, look, this is, to me, Xbox's showcase this year. I think it's funny because it's always like, maybe this year. People really were high on Xbox's showcase last year and E3 showcase. And I think that it's understandable why they were, because Xbox showed a shit ton of stuff. I think you could argue that maybe they showed way more than they had to. My only problem with it was that, I feel like a lot of the things that they were announcing seemed pretty early, and we really didn't see like a lot of footage. Again, Redfall, like they ended with Redfall, and it's like, I understand why a lot of people are seeing that CG trailer and they're like, hey man, this looks great. And I'm like, yeah, I guess but I want to see the gameplay for a new IP like that. I really do. You're saying drink water, MBG? It's a good idea, actually. I'm probably very dehydrated right now. Thank you for reminding me. Appreciate that. Refreshing. This is the water segment, water break. I fully expect Devil Shooter to put this in the timestamps. Okay. All right. There we go. Anyway, back on topic here. Yeah. Where the hell is the body armor? I thought they sponsored your show. I wish they sponsored my show. But look, regardless of last year's E3, I am particularly excited about Xbox's E3 this year. I've been talking a lot about PlayStation Showcase. I'm super excited for PlayStation and what they're going to do. And obviously, I'm going to be through the roof excited for whenever Sony wants to hold their next show. It's just that, I feel like Xbox has been more consistent about when you can expect them to have a big show. Thank you, Devil Shooter. But I think that there are a lot of different projects, obviously, that Xbox has been working on that at this year's E3, this is why I'm so curious to know what Sony's going to have to compete. Because, dude, they're going to be showing Starfield. They're going to be showing Redfall. I think they're going to definitely show more of Hellblade 2. They're probably going to show some Avowed. They're probably going to show. I really hope they show some State of Decay 3. And as Jeff Grubb said, apparently they're trying to get big games to be part of the show. So, and Microsoft, if they wanted, they could tease some shit too. You're saying, I saw that apparently they're in super early talks about maybe Fallout New Vegas 2 and stuff. And while that may not be my cup of tea, they could tease it out, man. Oh, they could show Fable? Dude, this is where, like, I know I'm hard on Xbox, and I still have that feeling of, like, to me, they still haven't shown anything of consequence. They still haven't proven it. But I really do believe that, I don't know, I say this every year, but for real, like, I mean, come on, dude. They've had shit cooking in the oven for a long time now. We could see a lot of stuff, and that's exciting to me. That's exciting because what I feel confident in. Oh, also, apparently the Coalition is making a new IP. I hope that's true. There was a rumor about that. That's awesome. That's exactly what I would like to see. A AAA founded studio under Microsoft. That's like, they're within Microsoft Studios. They've been working on the same thing for a long time. Now they're going to do something completely new. That reminds me of Guerrilla Games, And so I really do think that it gets me excited for two reasons. One, I'm excited because, dude, bring it on, Xbox. Like, I know people think I want Xbox to fail. I don't know why people think that. Like, I think that's the craziest shit because it's like, you think when I tune into Xbox Z3, I'm like, I hope this is a shit show. Like, why would I want that? Why? I mean, it would be, sure, maybe for the reason where it's like, well, you could just dunk on them and it would be funny and your, PlayStation fan base can go crazy. Sure, but that's not like, I want to see some good shit. I want to see some games that are going to get me excited. And so, I think the other reason I'm excited for Xbox's show this year in their E3 is because knowing that they have this amount of stuff that they could show, knowing that they have this much stuff in the works and they could show all of it, they could show half of it, and it would still be a lot, and they're trying to court big game developers, it makes me think, Xbox or Sony surely has to be aware of what Xbox is doing right now. And it gives me more hope that maybe PlayStation show could be even bigger and even better than it maybe originally was going to be. So, the competition could be fierce this year. And I always get it, I think you guys notice that, there are moments where I really get excited about the competition between Xbox and PlayStation in particular. And it usually starts to happen during the summer when it's like, okay, now we're going to see the Titans and the Juggernauts kind of trade blows once again. And, it's interesting, because we're starting to get reports. We know Sony has PSVR 2. So we'll see. And you know what? I'm going to move on to the next topic, guys. Actually, one last thing I do need to bring up before I move on to the next topic. So I know that a lot of people think, like, me and Phil Spencer, we're at complete odds here, Like, Phil Spencer hates me, I hate him. I don't think it's that way. I mean, Phil Spencer probably doesn't even know who I am. But I don't really have that big of a problem with Phil Spencer, although I have been critical of him in the past. But I'm happy to say, there is one thing that me and Phil Spencer are seriously on the same page with. And I was like, this was like the first time I saw like a write-up regarding Phil Spencer that I got excited about. And I was like, yo, I got to read what he's saying right now. And I have an article here from Gaming Bolt where it says State of Decay 3. Xbox boss is incredibly excited about where that team is going. And so it says here, since the announcement of State of Decay 3 nearly a couple of years ago, why is this ad directly right over it? So pretty much it's saying that we haven't seen anything about State of Decay 3. It says, it seems, however, like it's shaping up well behind the scenes. Speaking in a recent episode of the Xbox Era podcast, Xbox boss Phil Spencer talked up State of Decay 3, sharing brief impressions of his time with the game and how incredibly excited he is about some of the advancements it's making over its predecessors. So he says, this one's probably not that big of a surprise for people who have watched me play, but I was a big State of Decay 2 player. Looking at State of Decay 3, I'm incredibly excited about some of the advancements they're going to make, Spencer said. They've had this pattern. They've talked about it publicly from State of Decay 1 to 2 to 3 and what they want to do. And we haven't shown a lot of State of Decay 3. It's a game I really enjoy playing. I'm a big co-op player. I like building. I like resourcing. And I'm really excited about what that team's doing. So, you know, I can't help but get excited. Like, I know that sometimes we got to be careful with what Phil Spencer says, but I genuinely can't help but get excited because, like, that is probably the game that I'm most eager to learn more about and see more of, because this will be the first time we're getting a State of Decay game with Undead Labs underneath Microsoft, and they have all that backing. And that's where I do still have hope that, okay, I want to believe you, Phil. I want to believe you. See, Phil likes State of Decay 2. I like State of Decay 2. It wasn't everything I wanted it to be, but I'm very interested, and I really hope that we see it this year. So there we go. But next topic in line that I know quite a few people were asking me to talk about, and this will probably be the final topic of the show. Hideo Kojima Productions. What is going on? Is Kojima Productions actually making an Xbox game? Is he no longer working for Sony or working to make a game for PlayStation? Well, there were a few interesting things that happened this week that I just want to talk about, hopefully without getting too tinfoil hat here. So first of all, I want to say that at this point in time, there's no way that that his next game isn't going to release on PlayStation. I mean, I would be shocked if it didn't, but one of the things we found out this week is that Kojima Productions is using Sony's California motion capture studio, which that doesn't mean he's making an exclusive, okay? Sony rents this studio out. They rent this spot out for any publisher who wants to use it. But the one question I have about this that I don't actually have an answer for, but I can only make an assumption, is some people were saying, well, there's no way Sony would rent out their motion capture studio for a game that's going to be exclusive on a competitor's platform. And I have to say that makes a tremendous amount of sense to me. Rashdom V2, you're saying, while not perfect, I like that Phil's a gamer too. Yeah, I agree. I do. I kind of really appreciate that about Phil Spencer. I mean, he does play games very obviously and openly, and I think that's really cool, you know, because you don't see that very often from higher up executives, especially somebody as high up in Microsoft as him. It's good. But, you know, it just seems to me that... Wait, did anyone see that photo of Kojima on Twitter that was posted of him holding a Game Pass sign in his hand? I didn't see that. Did he post that? Devil Shooter saying they'll rent it out. And yet, I mean, how messed up would that be, man? How messed up would that... It was a Photoshop? Okay, that makes more sense. How messed up would it be if we're seeing... So, look, okay, the studio side, I get it. I could see that. Sony's like, dude, we don't care if the game is exclusive to another platform and not coming to PlayStation. If they're willing to pay us to rent the studio, their money's good here. We'll take their money. I agree with that. I could see that. I think somebody mentioned that Titanfall 1 actually rented out that same studio, and that was an Xbox exclusive. So if that's true, then it does confirm that we can't really gather much, if anything at all, of, you know, Kojima using the studio. Yeah, I will admit, though, you got to admit, it would be a hell of a thing to see stuff like this posted and then find out that his game's not coming to PlayStation. That'd be so messed up. But there is something else. So apparently, and it took me a minute to catch on to this, there's a bunch of posts from Kojima where he's using these two-way screens called the Sony Matto. And the interesting thing about this is these are not products that you can just buy. All right. These are prototype products that Sony is currently testing out. And apparently they gave Kojima these prototype Matto screens, and they're like, I don't know much about them, but they're essentially supposed to be like a big two-way. They're basically supposed to be like a mirror where it feels like you're there, like you're just looking through a mirror. And I don't know how it works. Sounds pretty cool, actually. But they are prototype, and that I didn't know, because I was like, man, Hideo Kojima is really showing off these Matto screens and Sony branding all over them, and talking about how much he loves them. I just thought, well, I guess the studio just bought a Sony product to use. But then I when I found out that no, actually these are prototype, and I'm like, well, how many other studios or developers are using this right now? I can't imagine very many, right? And on top of that, am I saying it wrong? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it wrong. Mado, I don't know. Mado, I'm Mad-O. Yeah, okay. I'm not going to get hung up on that. But apparently Sony also sent Kojima flowers. And look, people are saying, well, the only reason Sony sent Kojima flowers is because Kojima, he got an award. He was given an award and a very high honor in Japan, which is actually awesome because he's being recognized by Japan for, his work in games as like a very serious thing. And I think that's awesome. I don't have it up in front of me, but I was like, wow, that's a really high honor, good on him. And Sony sent him flowers. And so, people are looking at this and they're just like, clearly Sony and Kojima are very close. We've known this, but this brings me back to the blog post last year when Death Stranding Director's Cut launched, where at the end of the blog post, there was this big message written by Kojima Productions, and people thought they were reading it like it was a goodbye. Like it was a goodbye message, and this was in the thick of the rumors that Kojima's making an Xbox game. And I just find it interesting. It's like, well, here we are now, though, and I don't know, man. It just seems like they're still super close. It really does. I don't necessarily think that means he's making an exclusive, but I just don't believe that his next game isn't coming to PlayStation. That would be too shocking to me. I'd be like, wow, this is weird as shit. KD, you're saying, did you catch the PS4 dev kit in the recent Kojima picks? Next Kojima title is definitely cross-gen. Wasn't it a white PS4 too? Wasn't it a white PS4 too? I swear, I think I saw that, and I was like, because at first I was like, is that a PS5? And like if he puts a PS5 in a picture, it's gonna be a big deal. And I don't know, man. I don't know. I think that he's trying to say something. I feel like Kojima is always trying to say something. JDTV, you're saying, if I was at Avalanche, I would make a secret Easter egg where you can use a spell called Pagliaccio. I don't know, which means Pagliaccio, which means clown in Italian, just for you. Thank you, JDTV. They need to get you over there. At Avalanche so you can bring that in. For sure. What if Kojima and Miyazaki are working together on a game? That would be crazy. That would be fascinating. I don't know how that. I feel like that game could potentially turn out horrible, because I feel like you're talking about two creative minds that are just so powerful. It's almost like it's too much. It's too much for any one game. D-Doc, you're saying Matto is window in Japanese. Oh, okay. Well, that makes a ton of sense. Window. Okay. Yeah. So with the way they're used, they're basically windows right into the work that's being done, right into the room. So, something else that was pretty interesting that happened this past week. Okay, this is going over to Kojima's Twitter. Let me bring it up here. This was really bizarre to me. I look at stuff like this still, and I'm like, if this is a troll, just please stop, because I can't take it anymore. He posted a picture on his Twitter. Okay? And I swear, I'm telling you now, anytime Kojima's posting something that has Silent Hill stink all over it. It's not just me that's there. It's not just the desperate Silent Hill fan base that's there, the believers. It's also Jeff Keighley. Did you guys notice that? Every time Kojima is posting something that has the Silent Hill stink on it, man, Jeff Keighley's there, man. He's right there in the thick of it. And I'm like, there's no way this man doesn't know what Kojima's doing. There's just no way. He's a close friend of Kojima. He absolutely knows. He knows. Also, I want to know, right before the Game Awards, Jeff Keighley posted a picture of the two pandas trying to escape the cage. Now, look, I don't recall seeing anything at the Game Awards last year that could count as the pandas escaping. Like we saw when he posted a picture of one panda escaping a cage right before he re-revealed Elden Ring. Like, yeah, okay, get him out of gamer jail. There's two things in gamer jail. Like, whatever. I'm not going back. I'm not even going back to the Game Awards. We got hardcore trolled by Guillermo del Toro, the whole 9 yards. Messed up, man. Messed up. But anyway, getting back to the Twitter account, or the Twitter post, he posted a picture. I can't show it to you guys. If you want to go on my Twitter account, it's there, where it looks like one of his team members, I don't think it's him, but one of his team members is writing on a whiteboard, and it looks like they're doing some kind of equation or just something where they're, I don't like, it's really difficult for me to even understand. There is a picture of a hand and a knife, a picture of a hand and a gun. It says shoe 020 / shoe 070, 60 minutes. Like, you just can't, but right there in like almost the middle of the image, it's very small, but it's zoomed in on it, a capital S and a capital H. And it doesn't say shoe, it just SH in all capitals. And, you know, people are looking at that. And Jeff Keighley responded to this. By shoe, I mean SHOE, not SHU. And I'm just like, why are you doing this? You know? I still believe. I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. I do not care what anybody says. I do not care what anybody thinks. I do not care what evidence there is against it. I do not care what evidence there is for it, although there is a lot of evidence for it. Silent Hill's coming. Silent Hill's coming, and it's coming from Kojima. You better believe it. You better believe it. I'm telling you, it's going to fucking happen. I know people talk about like Abandoned and Blue Box. I have no idea if that has anything to do with it. But I'm telling you now, it's happening. It's happening. I'm not saying that like I know, like I got an inside source. I don't mean it that way. But it's gonna. I'm telling you, there's too much bullshit surrounding this for this not to be real. And I'm prepared, man. I'm prepared to wear the clown wig again. I know JDTV's ready, but it's happening. It's gonna happen. To me, it's been obvious for a long time that this is what Kojima's working on. This is what Kojima's working on, and you cannot convince me that's not what he's fucking making right now with Sony. You cannot convince me. Everything he's been doing on his Twitter, he's posting pictures. It's nighttime. It's creepy. He's fucking doing little PT teases on Twitter, man, where he takes a picture of the, I guess, the building. You're saying, LOL, do you like humiliating yourself? Dude, it doesn't matter at this point, man. I literally came on stream with a clown wig, all right? This is not a matter of dignity. This is just a matter of belief, all right? And he's taken all these pictures. He's screwing around, man. He's screwing around. Him and Jeff Keighley are screwing around. Guillermo, like, you guys really think. I'm just saying, I don't mean to go off the deep end again. I just got to get it out of my system, all right? It's been building up for a while. You guys really think that Jeff Keighley's Game Awards last year, that they just get Guillermo del Toro on to be like, oh, by the way, Silent Hill, somebody should make a new one of those. Fucking lock it in, boys. Lock it in right here. Kojima is making Silent Hill, and it's happening. And I want to say it's going to be revealed this year, but I feel like I've been saying that every year. I'm not going to go as far as to say it's going to be revealed this year, but it's happening. It's happening. Call me delusional, call me stupid, call me desperate, call me, bring in the copium. It's fine. I need all the copium. It's happening. It's happening, and I cannot sit here and pretend any longer. I know you're MVG, man. Leave it alone. Hey, man, there's a reason why I'm talking about it now at the 3 hour and 30 minute mark of my podcast, okay? But just remember I'm saying this. Kojima's making Silent Hill, and that's what he's working on. I think it is going to be a PS5 exclusive, but it wouldn't surprise me if it... I could be like a not a cross-gen game, a multi-plat game, but I think it's going to release on PC as well. But yeah, it's happening. It's happening. There's no conceivable timeline or reality at this point in time that this is not what he's working on. Now, I want it to be known that I do believe Kojima Productions could be working on more than one game. More than one game. So those reports we heard about Microsoft trying to court him into making a game, I could see Kojima Productions absolutely at this point in time working on 2 different games. One for Sony, one for Microsoft. Obviously, the progression of those games will be... Actually, Kojima said it. I don't know. I'm totally forgetting. Kojima confirmed himself he's working on 2 fucking games. Like, I don't know why I'm sitting here talking about it. Like, I think. No, he confirmed that either very early this year or last year. So, he's working on 2 games, and it won't... Bring the clown back, MVG, please. Don't worry, buddy. It's... If I will have it ready for the next Sony show, man. Maybe not the next Sony show. I don't know. See, I feel like the next time Sony has a showcase, if they are working, as I believe, on a Silent Hill game, it's gonna have to be revealed at some point. And when it does, I feel like it would happen at the next Sony show. So maybe I'll bring it back then. But hopefully they don't keep you silent for too long, Kojima. God, man. I swear. D-Dog, you're saying, don't apologize for your hopes and dreams, MBG. Lord knows we could use some of that these days. Hashtag Team Chaos. That's what I'm saying, man. That's what I'm saying. Everybody wants to be so... And I know it's easy for me to say this 3.5 hours into my podcast after dunk your face in a pie if you're wrong. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. MBG will just not give up on the Konami dream. I'm not, dude. Here, I want to make this clear right fucking now. I want to set the damn record straight. I don't care if I'm losing my mind. I'll lose my mind right now. All right, I'll go full conspiracy mode. I want to make it known that for all the shit that people have said, it ain't real. It ain't happening. You're out of your mind. You're delusional. You're desperate. What has come out to prove it otherwise? What has happened to prove to us that Kojima's not making Silent Hill? That this isn't real? That's not a thing. In fact, more things have happened to say that, yes, it's real. I guess suddenly Gamatsu, yeah, there we go. Gamatsu already confirmed Kojima. Yes, they did. I guess suddenly Gamatsu doesn't mean shit. Gamatsu doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. Why would Gamatsu say that? Just one of the most well-respected, reliable Japanese gaming sources of all time. I'll tell you why nobody else is saying it. Because this is exactly how it was supposed to be. Everything that's been going on has been done purposely because Sony, as well as Konami, as well as Kojima, they all know the weight behind this, and they didn't want it leaking out, man. I'm telling you. They did not want this shit leaking out. And I remember back last year at Summer Game Fest 2021, Jeff Keighley brought Kojima on. And Kojima was talking for like 4 minutes straight. Jeff Keighley straight up asked him, he's like, so you want to give us a hint about your new game? Do you think he gave us any hints about his new game? Absolutely he did. He made it clear. You're going to be playing the game right now, people. You're going to be playing the game right now. He said, every time I've made a game and he referred to Death Stranding, he seems to be able to predict the future, things that are about to happen, things that are going to happen. And each game he makes, it gets closer and closer. And he said, so you know what? The game I'm working on right now, it has to happen sooner. I'm going to be doing it now as it's happening. This is essentially what he's conveying. And I always thought that the way he talked about this was so weird, because what I took from what he was saying is that while I'm making the actual game, like developing it, you're going to be playing something right now. It's happening in real time. You're not going to have to wait for it to come true because it's already happening in front of you. I'm telling you, it's exactly what he would do. It's exactly what he would do. It is some meta shit. Real time experience. I'm just, look, at one point in time, I really kind of convinced myself, damn, maybe this isn't real. Like maybe I am, like, I've lost it. I've lost it. But I'm just like, no. When I really think about it, I realize that there is no evidence, zero evidence that I am wrong. Zero. There is more evidence that I'm right. And this is not about being right. I want to make that clear. When Silent Hill is announced, and it is Kojima, I'm not going to come out and be like, I told every one of you sons of bitches I was right the whole time. I mean, I'll have to at least say it once. Just once. Be like, oh my God, I was right. But when this is announced, I'm just going to be so happy. I'm just going to be so damn happy and be like, you know what, guys? We did it. We did it. We did it together. Our belief wavered at some points. At the lowest points, our belief wavered. I'm convinced at this point, you're saying you will gloat if it's real. I mean, if it's real, the only thing I will gloat about is I'll be like, look, man, something deep down inside, I couldn't let go. It was telling me it's real, bro. Not to brag or because I don't blame people. Dude, I don't blame people at all for not believing and being like, what the hell? This shit ain't real. But I'm telling you, man, there's a reason why Sony's been saving this in their back pocket. There's a reason why Sony's been saving it. There's a reason why all this weird shit with, look, again, I don't know. I'm not getting into the whole blue box abandon thing. I am pretty convinced. I gotta admit, I'm pretty convinced that I don't know shit when it comes to blue box. I was gonna say I'm pretty convinced that they're not they're just an indie studio that's in deep shit. So I'll just leave it at that. But I'm telling you, dude. I don't want to go any further. I don't, because I don't want to really just tip over the edge here and go, you know. We shouldn't even speak their name here. Yeah, I mean, look, man, I don't want to go any further because I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, dude, I'm ready. I'm ready mark my words as with this as well. And I'm going to say this too, and so many people will be happy to hear this. If Kojima announces his next game, like let's just say Sony does hold an event. I've seen some people say Sony's going to do an event in April. I don't think so, but let's just say the next Sony event, no matter when it is, but the next proper Sony event, Kojima, they bring him out on stage or whatever during the video, and he comes out and he announces his new game, and it's like Death Stranding 2, which would still be pretty sick. But that's what it is. And it's just like Silent Hill's just like, it's not a thing. I will never, ever talk about it again. Like ever. I'll never talk about it again. That's how sure I am that he's going to announce Silent Hill. So, looking forward to Kojima's horror game. It's going to be a good one. Ah, man, I feel like I've been holding that in for like a couple weeks now. But something else I do want to say on a little bit more of a serious note. I feel like I've created this, and this will probably be the last thing I say. I've created this perception, understandably so, that people do ask me, you're like, well, what do you like more? Like, are you more of a fan of Silent Hill or are you more of a fan of Metal Gear Solid? I want to make it very clear. I am like, Metal Gear Solid is my all time. Like, that is my, tippity top number one. That's it. Nothing surpasses Metal Gear. Right? And Silent Hill, I've always really liked. I've always liked survival horror. I really particularly like Silent Hill style of horror because it's very psychological, and I love that aspect of it. And the notion, and this is where like the reason why I show so much excitement for a Hideo Kojima developed Silent Hill is because, dude, Kojima has been psychologically messing with people since he started making video games. And you take that brand of horror, Silent Hill, such a psychologically driven brand of horror, and you take the creator of Metal Gear Solid, like my favorite of all time, and you let him do that, you let him make that horror game. That's why I'm so excited for him, man. I'm not saying I wouldn't be excited for Silent Hill if it was somebody else making it, but it's like when we talk about like Bloober Team making Silent Hill, I can't, I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to be showing this type of hype. I'll be excited like, oh, there it is. Silent Hill's finally announced. We did it. Just not in the way we wanted, Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Dead Space remake as well. But that's what I'm saying. Like, do you see the difference there? Like, there is a, oh my God. Okay, hold on. I have to say this. This is critical. This is critical, okay? If there is 2 Silent Hill games in development, like what's been reported, VGC reported, and Bloober Team even hinted that they are working with Konami. In fact, it's been officially noted that Konami and Bloober Team are working. I am making it clear now that when we see Bloober Team reveal Silent Hill, it's not over. They're going to announce that first. They are not going to dare announce a Silent Hill game from Kojima before they announce Bloober Teams. So we're going to have a moment. We're going to have a down moment where that announcement's going to come. Silent Hill's going to be revealed, and then Kojima ain't going to be nowhere to be seen. It's going to be Bloober Team. All right? But the second game will be revealed, and that's the one that's going to be dude, you're saying if somehow this comes true, MVG is going to be running around the street naked doing windmills. Jesus, dude. Come on. I mean, I'm passionate about it, but I'm not that passionate. But yeah, so it seems that there is going to be 2 Silent Hill games, and I would imagine that, the Bloober Team one is going to be announced first. Space D, you're saying, what about a Kojima / Silent Hill multiplat game? Same hype? Oh yeah, absolutely. To be honest, I don't care if it's exclusive. Like I know that it's like they think I want this to be true because, oh my God, a PS5 Kojima exclusive game. Dude, look, if it somehow turns out that Xbox got Kojima to make an exclusive Silent Hill game, dude, I'd be there I'd buy an Xbox the next day because I'm playing this game. This is not about the console thing. I just think that it would be pretty crazy for PlayStation and for Sony if they happen to get that as an exclusive. That would be pretty crazy. But if it's like a multi-plat game, absolutely, Space D. Like, this is where there are times where it's like, yeah, I get behind exclusivity, but I would be totally happy if it was completely multiplat. Rumor hysteria is fun in itself. I mean, dude, come on, man. I know I can't be the only one. Shit's grim out there, man. Shit's grim out there. You know? And there's no... I don't know. Like, to me, I'm just trying to have a little bit of fun. And I do have my own beliefs here. And I'm telling you, like, the Kojima Silent Hill thing is real. But I just feel like sometimes everything's so serious all the time. Everything's so... bad. There's bad shit going on in the world right now, and I don't know. It's just nice to have a little bit of an outlet. That's all. So I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way. William, thank you so much for the generous donation, buddy. You're saying Silent Hill, Metal Gear Solid, and Death Stranding, they're all the same franchise. If you remember way back when Death Stranding was originally announced, he said strands connect between universes, director's cut connections. That would be... You know what? Actually, I remember in Metal Gear Solid 5, in the Phantom Pain, I remember there was an Easter egg, and you might be right, where there was I forget exactly where in the game, but you're walking to a certain destination, there's like a little tiny encampment, and there's a radio, and the radio is playing the exact same thing that we heard on the newscaster, basically talking about the man who murdered his family or whatever. It was playing the same thing right there, and that was in the Metal Gear universe. And they actually had the throwable, the blow up thing of Lisa. So yeah, they were connected, man. They were, and that would be crazy. That would be even more mind blowing than anything I've thought of. So, MBG, I have a theory. Bluebird Team's game and Kojima's games are the same game, except it's an episodic Silent Hill. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing here is, like, if they are going to make 2 Silent Hill games, how does that work? Well, if Bluebird Team's handling one, I think that's going to be your more traditional, like, this is kind of like, I don't want to say a remake, but more like what a remake of the original Silent Hill would be like. You know what I mean? Because if you play Blooper Team's, I didn't play it, but the Medium, that was a lot like Silent Hill in many ways. And so if they just do that, but an actual Silent Hill game, it's more like the more traditional. I think Kojima's Silent Hill game is going to, you already know Kojima would never make a traditional Silent Hill game. Like, he would be the one to be like, okay, we're going to go places now, and we're going to do some things, and buckle up. You know, like, this is not gonna be like reminiscent of, oh, I remember playing a game just like this. Like, there's gonna be things that are similar, but yeah, I think PT, what you saw Kojima do with PT is a good idea of, like, this is, even just for a horror game from Kojima, like, this is kind of the idea of what he's going for. So I'm excited, man. I will continue to believe and to be excited until it is proven. It is proven that, hey, man, you were just delusional this whole time. And if that's the case, then I will take the L as gracefully as I can. I will. But I don't know, man. Even now, like, why did he put that picture up where it's zoomed in on SH? Why? Why would he do that? He just wants to troll. I don't think he's just trolling, man. He's not just trolling. He's not. It's happening. It's happening, I'm telling you. All right, anyway, I'm starting to get into that state of mind, where it's like, now we're going to go into the real nut job territory. Yeah, I this is the last thing I'm going to say. I promise. This is the last thing, because I'm about to go on 4 hours of the podcast. 2021 was the most bizarre year I've ever experienced when it comes to gaming. I'm not going to get into it. You guys were there, and you guys remember, and you guys were the witnesses. I know that I have, like, this reputation where I was like a crazy person, and there were times where I got a little bit overly like, oh shit. And I admit, but all I'm going to say is that there is a certain, I got to think of the right word to use here. Flavor. That's the best way I could describe it. There's a certain flavor that people would describe last year that they were like, it seemed to create a divide. Okay? Going with this flavor analogy. Half of on one side of the divide, you would have people that say, this is the exact same flavor. I know this flavor. I've tasted it before. Yes, this is it. And then on the other side, there were many people who were like, no, this isn't the same flavor. This is different. It's similar, but it's very different. And it's not the same. It's not the original recipe. I can tell. And I think back to all the stuff that was going on, and I kind of went back and forth. You know, I kind of went back and forth with like, I don't know which side I'm on, because I can understand both sides, because this is the same, but also different. But I'm trying to get to the point here without being too, you know. I guess what I'm trying to say is, as I've had time to just savor, you know what I mean? Like kind of just savor the taste and really kind of evaluate it and think like, is this really the same flavor, or do I just want it to be the same flavor? And well, we've gone from the original recipe to extra crispy. And that's the thing, is it's not actually the same flavor. It is different. So all the people who said that this is different, man, they're right. But they're also wrong to think that the difference in flavor is not coming from the same source. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm going to end my analogy there. At the end of the day, it's all chicken. There we go. There we go, Brian East. Final words of the podcast. At the end of the day, it's all chicken. I'm actually pretty hungry. I think that's why I'm going with this analogy. But yeah, guys, that's it. That's episode 101 of Press X Podcast. I got to admit, I did not expect it to go so off the rails towards the end here, but I know that there are those of you who really, really enjoy these Kojima talks, and I think they're pretty fun too. And I thought overall this was a good episode. It had a little bit of everything, man. This episode had me ranting about Sony. I was ranting about Microsoft, and then I ended it by, you know, basically losing my mind over Kojima and Silent Hill once again. So par for the course for this podcast, I'd say. But in all seriousness, I do want to extend a very big thank you to everybody who shows up to the podcast, you know, week after week. Those of you who watch later on and can't catch it live, but especially a big thanks to all those who donate super chats. As I said at the beginning of this podcast, you know, I kind of rely on you guys and your support to continue to do what I do here in the way that I do it. And I love doing it. So, yeah, thank you for that. Thank you for the direct support. Thank you to all of my channel members. I'm going to read out your names now. We have the Play Has No Limits Plus tier. You know, these are individuals who back me up month over month directly. Big shout out to Junior Jackson, Josh Z, Agile Ice 24, Skin Tight Salmon, PlayStation Pete, RU46, N2 Ray, iSiler 18, Whiskey Gaming, Pragmaticat, Chris B, Hidden Leaf 2 Taka, Morgan Anstein, Nakamichi. And then we have Play Has No Limits. So shout out to Ivanoa Kachofel, Kenneth A. Kramer, Rune Gasoden, Black Waifus, Ryan Butcher, John Renzi, Zanarkand Blitzer, Space Gambler Jr., AJ Saeed, JDTV, Sir Speaks a Lot, Shorty Faye, Big Norman 0518, Shaky Shako, Tyson Webb 509, Black Manta 1989, Sane JT, Brandon Chad Perez, Adrian Lupton, Introvert Gaming Dude, and Kevin Kahan. Thank you guys so much again for the month-to-month support. And a big shout out to Devil Shooter, who does the timestamps for me and the community each week. Doesn't miss a week. He always does it for the podcast. So if you happen to see him in the comment section, be sure to give him your thanks. Show him a little bit of love, because he really helps us out by doing that for us. So thank you, Devil Shooter. But with that being said, I am going to enjoy the rest of my Sunday. I hope all of you have a good rest of your Sunday as well. And we'll see. We'll see what this upcoming week holds. I'm sure it's going to hold something. And so I'll be sure to keep the content flowing as always. But that's it, guys. Until next time, take care.